Guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Pope Metallicus, and welcome back to Rock and Roll Religion for a special 4th of July episode where I'm fucking excited. And I got some friends here to talk about an album that is patriotic as all hell and should be in every American metalhead's collection, if not every metalhead's collection. We are talking about The Glorious Burden by Iced Earth. And here to help me do that is a newcomer to the channel. You guys know him as the robotic voice behind so many anti-Star Wars videos, which I agree with him on most of it, and just a generally great dude. Please welcome to the channel, the Sentinel.
Hell of an intro, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. What's up, man?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. Can't wait to get into this album because this is the 4th of July. This is the most American metal album ever made. John Schaefer is a freaking rhythm guitar goat. I just can't wait to just deep dive in this thing. Thanks for having me on to discuss it.
Absolutely, man. Dude, I'm happy to have you. And speaking of, we have a friend of the channel and somebody you'll remember from my more recent streams. We have SgtHerbs.
Hey, what is up?
How you doing, man?
What's up?
I'm doing good. Excited to be back, ready to hang out, have a couple of drinks, and talk some heavy metal.
Absolutely. That's what we do around here.
Yep.
I'd smoke a bowl, but then I'll get way too talkative. So I'm just sticking with the energy drinks and the water.
Fair enough. The intro to this album, can you even get a better, more patriotic intro to this fucking record?
No.
Right.
Than their rendition of the Star Spangled Banner, transitioning directly into Declaration Day.
It's like he basically did the Hellion Electric Eye thing, but with
or just seamlessly transitions.
It's the perfect transition, yeah.
Yeah. And I grew up thinking that Jimi Hendrix live rendition of Star Spangled Banner was like the most patriotic you could get. But then I heard this, and it is like still to this day I get goosebumps all over listening to this song. It is just
now I don't know if
phenomenal.
You know this. Speaking of Jimi Hendrix's rendition of the Star Spangled Banner, I don't know if either one of you know this. What was Jimi Hendrix before he was a professional musician?
I don't know actually.
Yeah, that's a good question.
He was a paratrooper.
A paratrooper.
He was in the army. Yeah.
He was in the
okay.
He wasn't just in the army. He was in the 101st Airborne.
Okay. Oh shit.
So
he served in World War II or the Korean War?
No, he was in the 101st Airborne between Korea and Vietnam.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that would make sense because that's right about the time he was coming out. Yeah. Okay.
Although, having spoken on Creedence Clearwater, not only on my own channel but last week, John Fogerty was also in the Army Reserve during that period.
Okay.
Now, I don't think he ever got sent, but that's kind of why CCR kind of lacks that anti-military rhetoric that is so common throughout the late 60s and early 70s.
Yeah.
But this is nowhere near anti-military. I mean, this thing is just the America fuck yeah anthem.
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
100%. Like,
and what I love is that it lays straight out the case. I mean, the lyrics of Declaration Day just straight out lay out the case for American independence.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Tim the Ripper Owens is singing on this album, and when he
is just fucking a machine, and
especially on especially on Declaration Day, when he goes into the part where we'll go to hell of war, we'll keep fighting. That part, right at the end of the song, the last verse.
Yeah, that third verse, he goes up and
out. Chills to this day when I hear it.
And by the way, at this point, he was actually still technically in Judas Priest.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
And he was doing this as a side project, and then I believe midway through the production of this record, he got the notification that Rob Halford was back as the lead singer of Judas Priest, and he'd been fired.
Oh, okay.
So
Poor Ripper.
no, but
he always gets this.
But what a series of albums he'd go on to do.
Oh my god, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Especially coming from basically being part of a Priest tribute band to being the lead singer of Judas Priest for 3 albums that I believe, two studio albums that I believe are much maligned, but not that bad. And most of the bad parts I have about Demolition have nothing to do with him singing.
Okay.
Right.
It's the musicality on the rest of it, which I never thought I'd say about Priest.
They were trying to find their identity in the late 90s, early 2000s when everybody tuned down and were more industrial.
And they found it in 2005 with Angels of Retribution when they went back to the older sound.
Yeah. And they kind of recycled what they did, throughout their heyday.
And you know what? It fucking works, because what Judas Priest in their heyday did was the golden age of heavy metal.
Yeah.
And everyone eventually gravitated back towards that sound.
Exactly. A whole new genre sprung up, and as a tribute and honor of it.
I mean,
the new wave of traditional heavy metal.
We are going to do a stream on that at some point, but Sentinel, I know you're a huge Priest fan. Have you heard of Riot City?
Yes, I own their 2019 album.
That's the only album they've done.
Yeah, I got it.
And holy shit, does that thing sound like 80s Priest?
Yes, the production even sounds like it was recorded in 1986.
Yeah, it's like with a little bit of a mixture of King Diamond.
Oh yeah, I can hear it.
Because it has a little bit of a fuller sound to it, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to shit on Dave Holland. But he as a drummer was nowhere near as good as Les Binks was.
True.
And I think any Priest fan can admit that.
I do. Like Scott Travis, Les Binks, Dave Holland, for all the good drumming he did on those classic albums.
Was just a good drummer.
Just a good, yeah.
He didn't add anything. He just was just kind of there.
Kept the beat.
And he did well with it. Which those are not easy albums to keep time on. But he did it well. But Scott Travis, I think, added a whole nother level to the band.
Yeah.
One that I think we didn't really see until Richie Faulkner joined the band. And as much as this is probably going to get me in trouble with a lot of Priest fans, I actually like the pairing of Glenn and Richie Faulkner just as much, if not more, than the pairing of Glenn and KK Downing.
I miss KK, and I wish they did the Priest thing with all 3 of them. You know how Priest brought back 8.
Actually, I don't want to see all 3 of them.
You don't want all 3?
That's where Maiden fucked up. Because Dave Murray went away for a while, and they got Yannick Gers, and then they added Dave Murray back in. No, sorry, it wasn't Dave Murray.
It was Adrian Smith.
Adrian Smith. Yeah. But ever since, they haven't sounded quite the same, and I don't think they've sounded quite as good.
Do you think it's like a conflict of the sort of writing styles between the 2 guitarists, or
a fact of having 3 guitarists?
Right. Too many cooks in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You either need a lead and a rhythm, which most bands get along fine with, or you need, like Priest does, 2 lead guitarists.
Yeah, they're both handling
the Glenn Tipton and KK, or Glenn and Richie.
Yeah.
The core of the writing unit in Priest was always Halford, KK, and Glenn Tipton. And when Richie Faulkner was brought in, they simply just added somebody who is a great songwriter, a great player, a very
well, that's what I'm saying. What was lost when KK left?
Yeah.
Is, I hate to say it because I love KK Downing. He's a great guitar player. added so much to my favorite band of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And then just did. But I think Richie added the next generation of blood into that band. I think KK had already done everything he was going to do. But we're getting back into.
We'll save the pre-stock for the 17th.
Yes, sir.
We'll go balls deep into Priest on the 17th.
And Herbs, you are more than welcome to join us on that.
Absolutely.
That is my favorite fucking heavy metal record of all time. But we will talk about that at the end of this episode. Christian, I love you, man. Happy Independence Day, boys.
Happy Independence Day.
Canadian brother.
Happy July 4th.
Hopefully someday you guys will gain your own independence. But no, man, this entire fucking record just slaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you go from, the initial duo of, the Star Spangled Banner and Declaration Day, into Don't Tread on Me.
Yeah.
After Declaration Day is
When the Eagle Cries.
When the Eagle Cries.
Oh no! Sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if either of you guys know what that song's about.
It's about the tragedy of 9/11.
Yes, he's correct.
Okay.
This album was actually being written when 9/11 happened.
That's right.
Right.
I think they had finished I don't know if they had finished the horror show tour and then went back and John started writing. But this song was
certainly being written when the rest of this album was being written.
Okay. We should talk a little bit more about 9/11 because it had a significant effect on the changes of personnel for this album.
Not only just the changes of personnel, it had a change on the population of the United States in general.
Absolutely.
I mean, that was the entire reason I went off and joined the United States Marine Corps.
Yep.
9/11 was the reason I joined the Marines. I was a freshman in high school when that happened.
Okay.
So I can still remember watching all we knew at the time when things started happening was a plane had flew into the South Tower of the World Trade Center.
Yep.
And we were watching live when the second plane hit. And that's when everyone knew that it wasn't an accident. It wasn't a navigational error.
Yeah.
It was something worse.
We had been attacked.
Yeah.
So, I think that for the younger audience, you guys won't really remember it all that well, or we'll just hear it being talked about like we talked about, like we heard Pearl Harbor being talked about.
Right.
Yeah.
Where it was just a thing until you saw the footage of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
when they came down.
For us, it was a thing that happened live on TV for us.
You could go so far to say it was sort of like I don't know the exact way to put it, but it was a trauma that everybody went through because we were all watching it happen.
And everyone who's old enough to remember remembers where they were when they heard about it.
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
It's like when I asked my parents about where were you when JFK got assassinated.
Yep.
They all remember where they were.
Yeah.
I was in math class in 9th grade. And I remember to this day exactly watching my teacher saying that a plane had hit the World Trade Center and we were going to watch it on the TVs. And they rolled the old, round screen TVs into the classroom.
Yeah.
And then turned it on. And we saw the second plane hit live.
I was at home I had been homeschooled for pretty much all the way up until I graduated, but at that point, I was in 7th grade. Um, I had a charter school that I went to 2 times a week, and that day, I think it was like a Tuesday that I would go in for class. And I remember watching it on TV, and me and my whole family were just glued, like terrified.
But I mean, I
What was
knew how
happening?
serious it was, but what really cemented it for me
Mm,
was when I was walking. We got off the bus, and my bus dropped us off like probably 800 yards away from my house.
okay.
So I was walking home, and I live fairly near to Hanscom Air Force Base.
Mm,
And we had two F-22s in 2001 going straight overhead.
you saw that?
And they
Shit.
were fucking moving. They were, close enough that I could tell they're 22s because that shape of the wing is unmistakable.
And the
Yeah.
F-20, and the F-22 didn't be officially went into deployment in 2005, I believe. So seeing an F-22
At
in
that
2000,
time.
They were
at
in
that time,
squadron
2001,
service
hauling
around.
ass.
They were in
That's serious.
squadrons.
That meant it was serious.
Yeah, they were in squadron service about 1999,
Okay.
but they were, assigned to the most elite squadrons, and they were being tested.
All right.
Tested. That would make
Okay.
sense, yeah. Because they'll do that with
Because
aircraft,
I
yeah.
mean, we do the same thing with small arms.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When the M27 was proposed to the Marine Corps, my unit was the first one to actually field them. Like
Okay.
they did
Yeah.
all the range tests and stuff like that, and then they gave them to us to actually field test them in 2011.
Mm.
And that was actually really cool. And that we got our filthy little hands on a weapon that had never been tested by the Marines before.
How cutting
That must
edge
have been
was
a
it?
lot of fun.
I mean, it's basically just a heavier barrel, fully automatic M16,
Okay.
which had existed since Vietnam,
Yeah.
but has not been in service since the Vietnam War because
Right.
Washington sucks at life
Yeah.
and decided that we were wasting too much ammo, which was the decision to go to the M16A2, which instead of a full automatic setting had a 3-round burst.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
all of us have to fire on 3-round burst during training to basically realize why we should never flip over to 3-round burst unless it's absolutely fucking necessary.
Unless
It's absolutely trash. Like, it is mostly useless and actually makes the reliability of the gun worse.
because of having that switch from burst fire to full auto,
Mhm.
it's adding more mechanisms to it, right?
Well, it's more adding the switch from semi-automatic to 3-round burst. On automatic fire, it was fine
Going from the semi-auto to the burst. Okay.
because it's trying to count rounds, and you have to add a mechanism in to do that with the trigger pull.
Yeah.
Because with burst fire, you pull the trigger once and you get 3 rounds out of it. But if you count it wrong and you get 2, next time you pull the trigger, you get 1. And then you have to reset the trigger and try again.
Oh, that's fucking annoying. That must be annoying.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. And it also jams fucking constantly.
Well, that's no good.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see it jamming constantly because of that. That's
Whereas the
getting.
common wisdom on the M16A1, its predecessor, the original M16,
Mm-hmm.
was that you fire 5 or 6 rounds and then let off. Because inertia is a thing, and close bolt weapons tend not to like to fire in short bursts. It's not a universal concept. It tends to be how the gun's designed. But the M16 was designed as an assault rifle.
Mm-hmm.
It was designed the same way the AK-47 was. It was designed to be fired on full automatic at close range, which is evident with how the rifling was designed, how the sights were designed, all that shit. All of the long range capability of the M16 came later with the A2.
Okay.
Which, until the advent of armor-piercing ammunition, actually really hampered the M16. Because what was supposed to happen with the M16 is the 5.56 round was supposed to basically barely stabilize in flight, and kind of the point would kind of wobble.
Right.
And then when it hit something, it would tumble. And the second it hit anything solid, like a rib or a bone or anything, it would fragment.
Right. Right.
It was meant to wound.
Yeah.
So, like, before that, you'd have, rifle caliber rounds, like the 30-06 or 308, which are actually the same round, just the 308 is a shortened cartridge version of the 30-06. The bullets are identical.
Okay.
They just shorten the cartridge.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
So that it would better feed into automatic, or into, automatic or semi-automatic rifles, and also the M60. Which is also why they went with the M14. Was because they wanted our machine gun and our rifle to have the same ammunition. So that worst case scenario, you can thumb rounds out of a belt and feed it to the rifleman.
Right.
That was the thinking at the time, anyway. Turned out that the machine gunners would go through rounds far, far faster than the riflemen would.
Yeah.
And that on full auto, the M14 was absolutely uncontrollable.
Yeah.
I've seen people try to fire a full auto M14. The only guys who ever got away with a full auto 308 by 51, otherwise known as 7.62 by 51 NATO, were the Germans with the G3. And the only reason they got away with it was a roller delay system. So the action works slightly differently. The FAL and the M14, there's a reason they were mostly semi-automatic. Because your average shooter cannot handle a 308 on full auto.
Yeah.
Out of a rifle weight weapon. Out of a
Yeah.
machine gun, that's a different story. Because you had the M60 and then you had my baby, the M240 Bravo. But that's a story for another day. Anyway, God, getting me off into weapons topics is like, yeah. This is going to be a long one.
I love listening to it though.
Because I know a lot about it, and it's just literally, guys, I don't care who else you heard it from. This is how it works.
Yeah.
From the guy who put the rifle to his shoulder and pulled the trigger.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got the field training, so yeah. If there's anyone I'm going to listen to, it's going to be you.
Yeah,
I'll go to you the moment we need to. The moment things start actually falling apart, and we need to go back to the communities that protected themselves and each other outside of the cities.
I would argue that by then it's too late. And that you guys should start asking me questions and learning from things now.
Yeah,
and
get the training
I am more than willing to teach you.
Yeah.
Even if I can't do it physically, I can at least give you guys pointers. And this goes to the chat as well. I have on my Gilded server a section called Tactical Toolbox.
Okay.
Where I link videos from guys I think are really good in terms of how to set up your kit, in terms of what you need, in terms of how to operate in a way that you won't just be a loot drop. Like, you can have all the good gear in the world. If you don't know how to use it, you're going to get clapped by somebody like me in about 2 seconds.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And in fact, the better gear you have, we're going to identify that and prioritize you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we assume that you know how to use it. Like, hey, this guy has that. Kill him.
Get him first, basically.
Yeah. Essentially, like, the rest of these guys are idiots. That guy might know what he's doing. Get him.
Well, if I was that guy, I would try my best to disguise the gear.
Or say hidden.
There's no way to disguise certain gear like modern night vision and things like that.
Oh, I see.
There's certain things you just can't hide. Yeah. Even plate carriers, like there are plate carriers you can't hide because you have to wear them outside your gear. I mean,
all plate carriers you have to wear outside your gear.
Yeah.
And your plate carrier is also your vest in terms of where you're carrying everything.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also a trade-off. Actually, you know what? We'll do a separate stream maybe tonight. If you
do a military stream
of me teaching you guys what certain shit actually does. But that's outside the scope of this video. If you guys want me to set up that stream, I will. And if chat wants me to set up that stream, I will. No, even if the two of you just show up, I'm glad to do it as a private video.
Oh yeah.
I gotta get a rifle so I can at least have something to physically identify with what you're saying.
And I'll show you guys my armor. The setup I have right now. And but anyway, although it isn't the spirit of this video, which is why I'll allow it.
Absolutely.
which is resisting tyranny.
Yes.
Which has become sadly relevant again.
Yep.
In this nation for the first time since the Civil War.
Yep.
Which is odd because we're going to get into that later.
Yeah.
Yes. Saving the best for last.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So we were talking about when the eagle cries and how it was influenced by 9/11, and there are two versions of when the eagle cries.
They do an acoustic.
The acoustic version is actually on the end of this album, which I didn't include in my review because the original version is the only one I care about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if you're into that stuff, it's great to have it.
No, it is. But I'm talking about I don't know if that was included on the original release.
No, they did a separate release that had the acoustic version.
I like talking about albums as they were released.
I think the acoustic version might have been on the Reckoning single that was released just prior to the album itself.
So that
I had the Reckoning single.
So that might have been floating around as the
Let me double check.
album was coming out.
Okay. Now, I could see that for sure. I could see that. Yeah.
And I could easily see an acoustic version of that song doing well. It's just not. It wasn't included on the original version of this album, I don't think.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I don't own.
You're right. It wasn't included on the first version. It was
that
the
first
single.
Release.
It was the single that included the Reckoning.
Okay.
Hollow Man, Valley Forge, and
Hollow Man's
When the Eagle Cries, the unplugged version was actually released as a single in 2003 prior to the actual.
It's funny to say that Hollow Man's a good one because I actually think that's probably my least favorite song on this record.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, it's mine too. It's my least favorite also.
Okay.
But
I guess I'm the odd man out.
I'm not saying it's a bad song. I actually like it a lot. It's just that the rest of this album is that high.
It's so strong. Yeah, exactly.
No, I do agree with that. Like, it's a good song, but compared to everything else, like Hollow Man's definitely going to be your like lower point of the album. I still like the song.
No, I do.
Yeah.
Let's let's get this in the clear right now. There are no bad songs on this record.
Correct.
There are just songs that are better than others.
Yeah.
Has John Schaefer ever recorded a bad song?
That's a good question because you know what? I adore most of Ice Earth. So,
I hesitate to say no. For the same reason. Like John Schaefer has
and
some
also
good songwriting.
all of his shit with Demons and Wizards absolutely slaps.
Yes.
Yep.
So I can't say he ever has.
Yeah. Yeah.
Objectively, like I can't say he's ever done a bad thing.
I think the guy has a real knack for storytelling.
And also rhythm guitar.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you're gonna pick a rhythm guitarist,
I mean, look
that's
at some. I mean, we're about to get into some of the faster songs on this record.
Oh, before we get into that, I just want to say I've got the Gettysburg DVD with the 5.1 surround sound of the entire Gettysburg 30-minute Gettysburg trilogy, and on that DVD is an interview with John Schaefer where he gets into his influences in Star Wars and history and all that kind of science
And
fiction
also
and horror is a huge influence on him, and the storytelling aspect of it.
Okay.
You can't have written the lyrics he did and not have been influenced by Gettysburg the movie.
Yeah.
Which, if you guys have never seen it, I would heavily recommend it. It's a long movie, but Gettysburg and Gods and Generals are both excellent Civil War movies.
I remember having to watch Gettysburg as like a school project, quote
and
unquote.
I remember them, and one of the best parts about it is they tell the story from both sides.
Yeah.
As just men fighting a war, not the political realities that went into it or why it was being fought. In fact, there were abolitionists that ended up on the Confederate side. James Longstreet would be one of them.
Because of being from that area.
Yeah, and one of his famous quotes was, "We should have freed the slaves and then fired on Fort Sumter."
Oh, remember back then they had loyalty to their states.
Yeah.
Exactly, as you should.
Loyalty to your state, not to your federal government.
I mean, it would be a difficult thing if the federal government declared war on Massachusetts tomorrow. I would have a hard time agreeing with it.
Yeah.
Because I live here.
Yep.
Even as much as I hate this fucking state.
I mean,
it's my home.
That's how it goes, right?
Even as much as I disagree with the politics of the state, it's my home. So, and you guys will see it later if we do that, even private stream or public stream. I'm willing to do either one, even if it's only on Rumble or whatever. That we'll talk about kit and stuff like that. If you guys are willing to do that later tonight, I'll send.
I might have to check a few things because I have a couple obligations I got to handle a little later.
Yeah.
But that's not for a few hours, so.
And if not, I'll leave it up on the channel.
Okay.
On going through my kit, why I do what I do, my experience, and I don't have everything that I want, but I will say that I am better equipped than most. I won't bring my pack up and start going through that shit because that's getting into, really minor territory of like a sleeping kit and stuff like that. Like, get a sleeping bag that you think works. The Marine Corps issue sleeping bags from like 5-10 years ago work really, really well. Having been a denizen of one of them for a long, long time, I can attest to this.
Yeah.
Both in the hottest atmospheres around and the coldest atmosphere I've ever lived in, they work.
Oh yeah. Get a
Good to
decent
know.
quality one. It lasts a while for sure.
Get a
Find your
Marine,
nearest Army surplus store.
and get a
Mm.
What I'm
Marine,
thinking.
and get a Marine Corps issue
Marine.
four-piece sleeping bag.
All right.
They work.
Mm.
They work really well. As long as you're using the pieces in conjunction.
Yep.
And always use the outer layer, because the outer layer is Gore-Tex. And it will keep you dry, mostly,
Yeah.
which is one of the biggest things I can ever say is it's all fun and games until your socks get wet. And then you have to literally air your feet out overnight.
Or you're dealing with gangrene.
Not gangrene. It's something even worse. Trench foot.
Oh.
Trench
Yeah.
foot
Okay.
is even worse than that.
Yeah.
But we'll getting back onto and these are things that the guys that we're talking about today had to deal with all the time.
Well, there's a song coming up that is specifically dedicated to guys like yourself.
Well, I mean, we're about to get into it. Greenface.
Yes. Oh, should we cover the Reckoning real quick, or go to Greenface? Let's just go to Greenface. Fuck it.
Don't Tread on Me? Yeah.
Don't tread on me. Yeah. Okay, I see. Going
I
like
forgot. I
track by track.
Yeah. I confused Reckoning and Don't Tread and When the Eagle Cries. But
Well, okay, so that's actually a good point because those two tracks, When the Eagle Cries and Don't Tread on Me or The Reckoning, they have such a good transition for going from one track to the next. They seem like one song.
and especially when you think about how different the tempos are.
Yeah. This is one of the things that actually got me into listening to some like experimental and progressive heavy metal bands, was specifically what Ice Earth was able to do with their production, how they made tracks
And
kind of
this
blend
entire
together.
album
Yeah,
just flows through as one
you
piece.
can listen to the whole album and it feels just like one giant epic you're listening to. They do that so well.
It's perfectly paced.
Which if 70s ever does a episode of and I forgot, I do actually have a graphic for some of this. I gotta show the emblem a little bit, but
oh yeah, it's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
We're also talking about my brethren in the United States Marine Corps, but we'll get to that in a bit. And of course, the album art, which I'll leave up just because it's fucking awesome.
Yes.
It's great, man. Yeah. I don't know if this was based off of a painting or
I believe
not,
it was.
but yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. It's definitely one that evokes a lot of emotions,
I
a
don't
lot
know
of
if
different
either of you have been
emotions.
to Gettysburg.
No, I haven't.
Neither have I.
I actually just went there recently,
Mm.
and the museum there is awesome. And unfortunately, it'll take more than a day to walk the battlefields. That's how big the fucking battlefield is.
I believe it, yeah.
But there's a panoramic view that they give you from the top of the museum of a painting that I believe a French artist did that's done in full 360.
Okay.
From his point of view, and he painted all, and it's beautiful and horrific.
So it like kind of wraps around you in a circle, sort of like okay.
No, it is a full 360.
Okay.
Because
That's cool.
Even I believe the point where he was at Cemetery Ridge changed hands, or the battle extended around the town.
Okay, so the Glorious Burden cover artwork was commissioned to an artist called Travis Smith, who's done album artworks for some of the best fucking bands, including Death, 7000,
I've heard his
Catatonia,
name. Yeah.
Nevermore, Opeth, King Diamond, Avenged Sevenfold, Scorpion and Lag, Overkill, etc., etc.
Okay. So this dude has some serious cred.
So some new bands and some like OGs that have been around. Okay.
But this would not seem out of place from artwork of the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that was something that John might have directed him to do, was capture the provide a new painting with that old kind of depiction kind of art that we see in so many historical artistic paintings of this battle.
Mm.
Yeah, hang on.
It looks, I mean, when I look at the album cover, I can hear it.
For 1 second, guys. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yep, no worries. I'll keep going, Sentinel.
Like I was saying, when I see this album artwork, I mean, I can hear the battle. I can hear the swords clanging together. I can hear the muskets firing. I can hear the men screaming. I can hear every single horrific, epic, kind of romanticism, not romantic, but kind of in the romanticism sort of thing going on. The heroic nature, the courage, the sacrifice, it's all there in one image.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And that's definitely one of the things with like evoking emotion. And you know how talented painters or artists in general can really, with one image that they take, evoke all of the feelings that you just described, like being able to picture yourself being there and actually experiencing it. That's one of those things that makes the mark of a good artist, I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, with the kind of neoclassical influence that I did a little art history, couple of art history college stuff, and it looks like straight out of that late 1700s kind of neoclassical romantic painting,
which is where it should look.
Yeah, exactly. It's where
this is the period where it came out of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
absolutely,
I love the fact that bands are willing to go to that level of detail where they're willing to commission an artist to do something in the style that it would have been at the time.
Yeah. And something is so recent as 20 years ago, which sounds ironic to hear and say, but
Sabaton does the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the awesome things I thought for the Great War Tour that they did in Europe, at least at the very beginning, was they had a chorus. And all of the chorus were dressed up in the uniforms of every nation that fought in World War I.
Say that one more time. Every Mason fought in World War I?
Every nation that fought in World War I, they were wearing their uniforms.
Yeah.
While they sang.
Yeah.
And I thought that was fucking awesome.
Well, yeah, it's true.
Because even the minor nations that fought deserve to be acknowledged.
Absolutely. There were
even the minor nations that didn't contribute a ton, like Japan or Belgium or all that. Like, yeah, Belgium gets recognized as a footnote of the war because they got basically overrun.
They had a war theater, yeah.
But they were actually fighting alongside the British. Not many of them.
Not many, but there were.
They were integrated into the British units and were fighting on the Passchendaele front.
Yeah. Oh, that's where some of their best marksmen, I think, on the British side came from. I could be wrong. Maybe that's World War II.
That's actually the Canadians.
Canadians. Okay. Now, Canadian would make sense.
Most of the marksmen on there were Canadians from the Western provinces that grew up hunting.
That makes sense. Yeah. I think I'm thinking of something a little bit different, but yeah. So, getting back to track listing, The next couple of songs. So this is something that always confused me a little bit, maybe because I didn't dig too much into like the meanings behind like writing the songs, like what inspired them. But Attila and Red Baron, that comes after Don't Tread on Me. Like,
They do seem pretty incongruous. Oh, actually, no, they come after one more.
mm,
Green Face,
Yes.
yeah,
which I am 100% convinced that that song can only be about two groups of people. It's
hmm,
either about the Navy SEALs or it's about the Marine Corps,
okay,
because we are two of the only ones who paint our faces before we go into battle, at least in certain circumstances, and attack from air, land, and sea, which
Yeah.
is what the lyrics state.
Yep. I remember.
okay, yep.
So it's either about the SEALs or about the Marines.
I would, I mean, me being a little uneducated with like military things, I would wager like he's likely referring to both. I mean, air,
Maybe.
land, and sea, like he's using that quote, which is kind of referring to all of those branches. You have
Well,
the
Do the Rangers
no,
wear face paint?
no. Well, I mean,
um,
they do, but at the same time, they don't operate on air, land, and sea.
Oh, that's right.
yeah,
Whereas it's in the literal name of the SEALs, and
yep,
it's in our Marine Corps hymn.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, yeah. I would say it's both of them, to be honest.
I don't
Both.
know. There was no Air Force at that time because this is
Well, actually, yes, there was. This is talking about kind of the SEALs didn't exist during World War II.
Yeah, it's more. I think John was dedicating it more to. I think specifically he wrote it regarding a somebody he knew who served in Vietnam.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so I was hearing this interview. I think I can't remember where, but he just basically said it was dedicated to, the kind of I wouldn't say generic, but the kind of archetype soldier who fought in that war.
Yeah.
Mm, okay. That would make sense too. Yeah.
It just happened to be a war that the SEALs that was their first really engagements,
Mm-hmm.
was
Yep.
Vietnam, and the Marine Corps, it was kind of the war that we were born for.
Yeah.
Of just going in, fucking shit up, and then leaving.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the strategy never really worked out because of political pressures. But when either of us got deployed, and I'll include the Army Air Cav in that, they absolutely fucked the enemy up.
Mm.
Like, they destroyed to unbelievable degrees. Same thing with the Marine Corps, especially early on in the war, like Operation Starlight, where nobody ever remembers this, but during Operation Starlight, the Marines basically were assaulting a Viet Cong stronghold on the coast, on the eastern coast of Vietnam, and we actually had naval gunfire support from no less than USS New Jersey, which, for those of you uninitiated, is an Iowa-class battleship.
Mm-hmm.
They literally blasted the top 20 feet off of a mountain.
Whoa. I would have loved to have seen that shit.
That is nuts.
They literally blew the top of the mountain off, which is just America as fuck.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, that's metal as fuck. Metal as fuck. That's American as fuck.
It's like,
American as fuck. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, you guys are holding on the top of the mountain. Shame the top of that mountain
Boom.
doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Oh man.
Welcome to Battleship 101. Like, those things were just absolutely retarded, and why I wish they still existed.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I know the reason why they were retired and why they don't really exist anymore, I really, really wish that the battleships still existed, because there's nothing just viscerally as impressive as watching a warship blow the top off a fucking mountain.
Yeah. That is absolutely insane to think about, especially the type of warheads or just ammunition that battleships carry. Uh,
No, they were
it's
firing armor piercing.
mm,
So they were loaded like they were firing at another battleship, except they were firing at a land target.
yeah, yeah.
Oof.
Just blow up an entire mountain.
And Mila, thank you for joining us, even if it's briefly because you're traveling. Wish you could be here.
Absolutely. Shout out to Mila. Hope you're having a great day and happy 4th. Cheers.
Happy Independence Day.
Mm-hmm. Hanging out, having a couple of drinks, talking about.
But Attila, I mean,
Yes.
this album, like, that's kind of where this album redefines itself into more of a general military history
Right. I would agree.
than it does, just America.
Right. If okay, Declaration Day is kind of the introduction of the album.
Mm-hmm.
When the Eagle Cries is the kind of the ballad, tragedy, grief. First part of I would say, and then the second part, volume 2 of that is the revenge, the retribution, the grieving and tragedy of 9/11, and then the epic retribution for it.
Also known as Don't Tread on Me and Greenface.
Right.
Right. Okay. So Attila does make more sense with that.
No, that does actually make a lot of sense.
I'm
into
always
how
wondering.
they paced it out. But Attila is, ooh man, what a fucking track!
It
This thing is just
slams.
aggressive as fuck.
Yeah. As far as musicality goes, it is definitely up there for
And
me.
I agree with Maxter.
Make
everyone make Herbs drink more beer.
Ale.
Hail Maxter, good to see you.
Hail Maxter.
Ale. What was I gonna say? Oh, the Matt Barlow actually has vocals for this song, even though he didn't sing on the album. As lead singer, he actually has vocals.
This is one of the few vocal tracks that they kept from him.
Right. It's in the part where it's in like the middle song where you hear this almost choral operatic male vocals that slam on. Let me find the fucking lyrics. I'm trying to remember.
But no, Attila in general is just an absolute auditory assault.
Absolutely.
And it kind of sets the tone for most of the rest of the album.
Yeah, it's where they really bring in their
thrash metal side.
Yep.
Like, this is where I know I said it before and you kind of were surprised by it, but like Iced Earth is a combination of power and thrash metal.
Yeah. And I could definitely see the I guess it's because I didn't listen to a lot of like power metal, like miss out on Judas Priest train, but I did listen to a lot
actually trad heavy.
Okay, trad heavy, yeah. Yeah, I guess like getting the whole like subgenres like figured out, but with thrash metal, I did listen to more of that. Like Attila is the one that hits like, okay, this is the thrash. I can hear it, and this is where I like really start getting into it, especially with the buildup that you have in those
Yeah.
first few songs. Like it's just such an epic buildup, and we were talking about like songs kind of connect to each other, and then this one hits.
And you have the elements of, especially on the guitar, with
It's the
with that chugging pattern and stuff like that. Like you can hear thrash metal coming.
yeah,
It just isn't there yet.
yeah.
And then Attila is where it rears its head.
It's I think for me, where it kind of throws me off with Attila is the with the song name, and then you've got some of the song lyrics. I'm like, is he talking about Attila the Hun?
Yes, he
is.
is.
Yes,
but then
he
how
absolutely
does?
is.
Okay, so I'm not wrong with that then. I always like second guess myself with it, but what does it have to do with Independence Day in 1776? That's where like I'm trying to like connect the dots. Like
Nothing.
No, yeah, exactly. It's world history. Attila the Hun was a major figure.
True.
It's also why we have Waterloo.
Right.
Later on in the album, which we'll get to.
Red Baron Blue Max.
And
which is
I have
a killer song.
It is, and it's the next track. And I also have an explanation for those of the people who don't know what Blue Max means.
Sorry, I didn't want to burp into the microphone.
Which I assume is both of you.
Well, no, the Red Baron was the famous
well,
German.
no, but whoever doesn't know what Blue Max is.
Blue Max, yeah, that I don't.
I thought that was another pilot.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay.
I actually have a model to show you both.
Ooh.
Okay.
I have visuals for this. Yay!
Yay!
Because I'm a history nerd and I collect random shit.
Well, you have that, John Schaefer, and you have that in common. He's got a lot of history figures too.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I also have a lot of non-history figures, like, my Ultramarines army that's sitting on my dresser right now.
Fucking cool.
Because I'm a glorious goddamn nerd and I refuse to apologize for it.
Yeah, I'll drink to that.
But no, Attila is really, really well done. And I think that's the stress of what was going on when Attila was attacking Western Rome.
It definitely feels like the first epic of the album, the first concept.
The first self-contained epic, yeah.
Yes, the first self-contained epic.
Yeah.
Because they kind of told the whole story in one track.
Yeah.
Which I think is awesome. And something I think Sabaton perfected.
No, I wonder if Schaefer chose this because it was the spirit of, I guess the lack of better words, the spirit of domination, but also the spirit of not willing to back down that he admired in Attila the Hun. Because if you look at Attila the Hun and his history,
I think he was. If you listen to the lyrics, I think he was more admiring the Western Romans.
Well,
they were not willing to bend the knee to who was clearly an oppressor.
Yeah.
Fun fact about
and
this song.
were willing to fight him to the bitter end. And in the case of Western Rome, they lost.
Yeah.
You didn't fuck with Rome. You didn't fuck with Rome and live back then.
Well,
in its heyday, yeah.
This was also far past the heyday. We're going to the 4th century AD.
Oh, okay.
Where
my bad.
Western Rome was on its last legs, and the Huns were actually the ones that killed it.
Yep. I mean, they had invasions from the Greco tribes or the Germanic tribes, I should say.
Germanics, I would say the Goths.
Yeah, Germanics and Gauls. I don't know why I said
Goths, not Gauls.
Oh, okay.
Gaul was what is now modern day France, who had either conquered or genocided centuries before.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I get it mixed up, but no, you're right on that for sure. It's
But the Germanians, the Goths came out of basically what was modern day Germany,
okay. Yeah.
and the Huns came out of, well, the first time they were written about was when they were in Hungary, which is where that name comes from. And they were basically fleeing the Mongols and thus came into Western Europe as a horde and just absolutely started wrecking shop.
Kind of a refugee horde, right? They.
No.
Mm,
Well, actually, very similar to what modern refugees are doing to our current society, except instead of being voluntarily let in, they had massive fucking armies.
mm. Yep.
And just conquered whatever they took. And sometimes they choose to settle there. Otherwise, they'd burn the city to the ground and then just leave it.
Yep. There's still a lot that I need to learn about my European history.
Oh, dude, I can teach you so much.
That's one of the reasons why I love talking to you, man.
Like
I learn so much every time.
I love history of especially Europe because it's so
Mm,
interesting because you have the Roman period and then previous to that you have the Peloponnesian Wars and stuff like that.
hmm
And oh man, basically the entirety of Europe has been at war with all of itself since about the year 400 when Rome actually fell.
That makes sense because Rome instilled stability, even if it was forced stability, all across the continent, up way up into the
Way up into Britain.
yeah, way up into Britain
Right.
and northern and Scotland almost.
Well, man,
They
that was
never
actually
did. They get the
that
Irish? Did they get
that
the Irish?
no, that was actually the borderline between Roman Britain and Scotland.
The Hadrian line.
Was Hadrian's Wall,
Oh, right. Yeah, I knew it was something.
which
Like
that's how you know how bad the Scots were at that point. I wish 70s was here to defend himself, but when the Romans build a wall to keep you guys out, that's when you know you're officially like, no.
yeah, absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
But the Irish wouldn't be conquered for another 900 years. Just about.
They, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about that, like Celtic Gaelic history, but they always had tribal things going on. There were jarls.
Well, the thing is,
Mm.
the thing you bring up with Jarls was not actually traditionally an Irish thing.
Was it? No. Okay.
The Danes actually set up a raiding settlement or a raiding port, essentially,
I'm
or
thinking.
a forward supply base
I'm thinking of a
in
different culture
Ireland,
entirely. Yeah.
to raid Wales
Yeah. Yeah.
or the western coast of Britain.
The jarls were more
The
north.
Jarls, well, a Jarl
It's more
was
north of
no,
Scandinavian kind of thing, right?
yes, a Jarl was a Scandinavian earl. That's where we actually get the term earl from.
Mm-hmm.
And early on in the conquest of Ireland, like the city of Dublin was originally a Norse settlement.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily Norse, but Danish.
Danish. Yeah. Yeah.
There's it's really hard to tell who did what because English history refers to basically all Norse incursions or Scandinavian incursions as the Danes.
Even though it was not it, they're
No,
not
it
all
wasn't. It was
Danes,
a combination of Danes, Norse, Swedish.
and all
I
of
doubt
the
the Finns were involved because they were
yeah
on the wrong side of that peninsula.
yeah the I know that the Danes and the Norse they kind of like fought for territory, but um
Well, but they all fought for territory in England as well.
yeah yeah
In fact, large swaths of England were considered what they call the Danelaw. I don't know how much of that is English revisionism or if the Danes actually conquered that much. Most of the conquests I know in England were Norse,
yeah
but Norse slash Scandinavian, Norse slash Swedish, because there was not a large differentiation between the two at that point.
yeah yeah
Not like there is now. Jesus Christ. You call a Norseman a Swede and, oh, watch the sparks fly.
he will get pummeled into the ground at the very least.
Yeah, like he will get visibly fucking angry.
Yep.
And only if you're my size or bigger do you avoid a beating.
Yeah.
Because you can probably give it back to him just as well as you get.
Ooh.
But anyway, moving on to the Red Baron and Blue Max.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure everyone listening to this knows who the Red Baron is.
He was so from the impression that I had, he was one of the top fighter pilots for Germany.
Not
Yes.
one of the.
Yeah, he was the top. That's
Not just for Germany. He was the ace of aces for World War One.
Yes.
okay. Yep.
And the funny thing is, everyone pictures him like Herbs. I don't know what your education is like, but everyone pictures the Red Baron in his red Fokker triplane.
Yeah.
This thing,
Mm.
if I can get it in camera, the red
Yep.
Fokker, the Fokker triplane.
Yes.
Yep.
That was only brought into actual production in 1917.
Mm-hmm.
Most of his war was fought in this plane. And this is the actual paint scheme he had for his plane. It was an
Holy
Albatross.
shit.
That is the one I recognize. Yeah.
It
He
an
was the Blue
Albatross.
Max too?
Yes.
Wow.
Blue Max was the name of his plane.
Yeah.
Red Baron, Blue Max. The
That's
Albatross flies high.
Exactly. The Albatross is the model of Blue Max.
Okay.
I didn't know that either.
Where he scored about 3/4 of his kills.
Fucking awesome.
He had a point where he had upgraded from that like 3-wing layer to the 2.
No, actually.
Mm.
He upgraded from the Albatross Blue Max
Okay.
to his Fokker DR1.
Okay.
Which was a triplane, which was slower but could maneuver better.
It had more mobility and
It
could get angles on other planes that.
It could maneuver better vertically.
Oh, interesting.
It was actually slower to turn than later war Entente aircraft like the SPAD 13.
Okay.
But what is ultimately ironic, and they go into it in this song, is that he had 80 air-to-air kills. This man was an absolute monster.
Yeah.
In air-to-air warfare. And yet he was shot down by an infantryman with a rifle.
I thought it was just a fucking rifle.
Yep, because entire section of rifles would just fire at a plane, and it was credited to a Canadian infantryman.
Oh, so was it one rifle or a bunch of rifles like together to make?
Well, I mean, a bunch of rifles fired at it, but one of them hit him in the head.
Oh,
just a lucky shot,
yeah,
right?
So I don't know that we'll ever know which one of those guys actually hit him.
Yeah,
it was credited to one specific rifleman.
Yeah.
So he was brought down not by a better pilot, but by ground fire.
What a shitty way to go out.
Not even an anti-aircraft gun.
Yeah.
Just generic rifle fire.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say this lucky shot.
Yeah, the golden BB.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Go ahead.
I had no idea that he was both the Blue Max and the Red Baron. I had no idea till this moment. That's awesome.
Until he actually formed his squadron. Actually, no, sorry. Until he reformed his squadron. Because he had his original Yasta 2.
Mm-hmm.
Which was formed in 1916. I think, using albatrosses. Because that was the most advanced German plane of the time that they could get in numbers. And again, and later on in the war, he became such a celebrity that he could order whatever fucking aircraft he wanted and get it delivered to him. And he chose the Fokker triplane, the Fokker DR-1. And actually, the funny part is, you know where he got his first 2 kills, right?
His first 2 air-to-air kills?
Yep.
Was in Germany? Maybe France?
He wasn't even the pilot.
Oh, wow.
He was standing up with a shotgun in the back of a recon plane.
And with a fucking shotgun, he shot another aircraft down?
Yes, he did.
That is nuts.
Chad.
Dude, that's how close air-to-air combat got in World War One.
Just zooming right next to each other, basically.
Especially early on, because other than the Fokker Eindecker, which if you need an example of that, I actually have a model of that over here too. But it was basically a monoplane that had one machine gun.
Mm-hmm.
But the Germans were extremely advanced in that because the machine gun was right in front of the pilot, and they had an interrupter so that it wouldn't, when the propeller was in front of the machine gun, it wouldn't fire. So you wouldn't saw your own propeller off, which was something that the British and French aircraft of the time in 1915 were struggling with. And it actually took until they salvaged a crashed Eindecker.
Okay.
To really reverse engineer the interrupter gear. And all of a sudden, the fighter gap started to close quite rapidly. Things like the Newport 11, Newport 17, and the British SE5 and Sopwith Camel were all of a sudden cutting into the German edge in technology. But the Red Baron didn't give a shit about all of that and was shooting all of them down.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it looks like he lost a duel to or it's one of two stories. He either got shot down by ground fire from rifles because there were no anti-aircraft guns in that sector, or he got shot down by a rookie Canadian pilot. His name was Brown. That officially got credited with the kill.
Wait, hold up. Canadians were in World War One?
Yep.
Absolutely, yeah.
Canadians were heavily involved in World War One before the Americans even got involved.
Because of their allegiance to the crown at that time, and they still do have that allegiance to the crown. So
they still got the queen on their money,
which is why we still make fun of them.
Yes, we do.
Yep.
And also because their money smells slightly of maple syrup.
They have a literal reserve. So, like, we're supposed to have a reserve of gold.
I'm not kidding. Their government had to come out with an official statement saying that they don't intentionally scent their money like maple syrup. I'm not kidding.
They have a reserve of maple syrup. They treat it like gold, man.
And it's not even good maple syrup. Vermont makes better. Yes, Canadians, I fucking said it. Vermont makes better maple syrup than you, and it's not because my family's from Vermont.
I've had maple syrup from Canada. I'm just not gonna comment.
Zambi, how you doing, man?
What's up, Zambi? Zambi. Cheers. Drink a beer if you got it.
But oh my god, that shit is hilarious. That like we actually gained that they celebrate their independence from England, but they were granted it in 1955.
What do they call it? Like Canada, it's not Box Day. That's their like
Dominion
Christmas or
Day.
whatever. Dominion Day. Yeah, there you go. Of course, it's called fucking Dominion Day, not Independence Day. I'm sorry, Canada, but you got some shit to work on.
No, you really do, because most other British colonies celebrate the day that England just kind of left them to their own devices. We're one of the only ones that legitimately fought them off at the height of their power.
Yeah. Granted, we had some assistance, but still, the only country.
Not as much as assistance as the French would make you think.
True. Yes, it was a little bit, but we still fought them off. Hey, that's a fucking fact. Yeah.
And the French can go fuck themselves.
All we get is a fucking statue? Come on, bro. Come on.
And they're rude.
Thomas, hail, the Gilk man.
Hail.
Thomas, what is up?
What up, Gilk?
But the only reason the French actually got involved in that war is because of the diplomatic delegation we had sent over to France.
Yeah.
And we had made inclinations, although no promises, that we would become a French colony.
Which, of course, didn't happen. They ended up selling us territory.
Hang on, wasn't that? But no, we made insinuations that we would join the French. And then once the revolution was won, we were like, hey, we're an independent country. And the French were like, cool, so when can we, take ownership? And we're like, no, we're an independent country.
Yeah. And which was the plan all along.
Yeah, exactly. And we're like, but thanks, though. We'll give you guys some really, really good trade deals.
That is the American way to do business.
Yeah, basically vaguely promise things without actually promising things, or let people read into things what they want. And then just like, no, that's not what's happening.
Yep.
So we basically fleeced the French. And by the way, I'm not even remotely sorry. Fuck you, France.
They are a little bit on the weird side.
I'm willing to say it. I legitimately hate the French.
I mean, all they gave us was a fucking statue and some territory. They can fuck off.
They didn't even give us that territory.
Oh yeah,
We bought it from them
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
in a
At the
period
time, it
when
was considered.
Napoleon needed the fucking money.
At the time, it was considered a bad deal, but it ended up being a great fucking deal for us. So.
Yeah, we have a history of that,
Mm-hmm.
of buying territory off of powers that didn't want it because it was, not considered great at the time, but 20 years later would be considered extremely valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's funny how that works.
It's a
Yep.
whole generational wealth thing, you know. You buy the land and then you pass it down.
Yep.
And France was up to their, couldn't see it, obviously, and they knew we'd put up a fight if they tried to kind of, if we, I can't find the word. We knew we would fight them back if they tried to force themselves onto us, especially after the British.
Well, that was actually one of the reasons to get into what comes later in the album. That was actually one of the reasons that slavery wasn't straight up outlawed in the Constitution, is because the southern states would have rebelled immediately.
Right.
And we would have divided ourselves, and the British would have been right back. And with either half of us defying them, there was no way we would have ever resisted them. Although I do love rewinding the clock back to 1775, that Massachusetts, including one of my ancestors, just fought the British at Lexington and Concord, and then turned around to the Continental Congress and went, you guys got our back, right? There was no prior agreement in place. Like, we just fought the British on our own hook and then turned around to the other colonies and like, you guys are going to help us, right?
Yeah.
Because if not, we were going to get fucking raffle stomped. And the rest of the colonies went, all right, fine. Because none of them liked the British either. We were just the most belligerent out of all of them.
And they were like, fuck it, the toothpaste is out of the toothpaste tube. Might as well fuck them up.
Exactly. It's just like, well, one of us has already done it. I can't imagine they won't do the same thing to the rest of us. So
right, and they're probably thinking,
fuck it.
They'll be back angrier, and they'll try to fuck
or
all
they'll
of
increase
us.
their garrisons.
Exactly. So now we're gonna have to commit, or we're gonna have to let them come back and just
it was
us.
just that confluence of events. It was just like, well, they've already done it to Massachusetts.
Right.
How long is it going to be before they do it to the rest of us?
That's right. I think that was even covered in the movie The Patriot, wasn't it?
Well, I would hesitate to use The Patriot as any kind of historical reference.
All right.
Because it's not.
Yeah.
But it was really one of those, well, we're much closer to Massachusetts than we are to England. So why shouldn't we support our cousins in Massachusetts?
Yeah.
And that's where most of the revolution came from, is, hey, these guys are getting a raw deal. And in a lot of cases, it was because Massachusetts had risen up in revolt with the Boston Tea Party, the Boston Massacre, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Or the Boston Massacre that led to the Boston Tea Party. And then a couple of years worth of unrest that the British decided to stamp down on. literally, with the Stamp Act.
Oh yeah.
That a ton of things required a stamp that carried a 2% tax
Right.
that we had no say in. So
Wasn't it
that's
just-
what we were fucking mad about. And then, to compound problems, they tried to disarm the militia.
Notice how in every situation in the history of the world where an authoritarian regime wants to consolidate power, they always try to disarm the people. Every fucking single time.
Yeah, and this is one of the few times in human history where we've turned around and shot them in the mouth.
Good thing to do. Yeah, fuck yeah. People forget that's the American. If you want to get down to the American way is fuck off. We'll self-govern ourselves, and if you try to fuck with us, we'll
Is basically thank you. What our way is basically thank you. We'll do it our way.
Yeah.
And if you try to force me, well, now it's going to get ugly.
Yeah. Now you got another thing coming.
It's like I denied you once politely already. Don't push me.
Yeah.
Which was where I sat with the whole. I don't even know if we're allowed to say this on YouTube, but with a certain poke.
Yes.
My attitude was I was willing to wait and see what they were willing, what the effects were. This thing was untested. It was fast tracked, so there's going to be issues.
Yeah.
So
That
I
was
was
my
willing to
concern.
see what their issues were. And then they tried to mandate it. So my answer now and forever will be go fuck yourself.
That's how I felt about it. Like, nope, I don't care. I'd rather get it than fight it off and even die. I'd rather risk getting it and dying than putting something in my body that could have long-term medical effects, screwing up my life
Well,
forever.
not even that. I would rather die than submit to state authority.
100% agree.
Totally agree.
It's, if you want to if you want to, facilitate the availability of it and promote it, sure, why not? But you cannot dictate to people what they must do.
Not in this country, no.
They got Australia.
And I think that's what this album is all about.
Right.
Including the last 3 songs, which we'll get to, and I'll probably get a lot of flack for later.
I can't fucking wait till John Schaefer starts writing the next Iced Earth album. I can't wait to hear what the lyrical content of that album is going to be.
He's probably already been writing, if you think about it.
Yes.
Yeah. He's got nothing better to do.
Right.
He predicted the elite releasing a virus that turns humanity into zombies. Plagues of Babylon.
Yeah.
He predicted that shit.
Yeah.
And it's not that he predicted it, it's that it's happened before.
There's a lot of shit we could get into with that, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't disagree.
Both from a, political and a religious aspect.
True.
Yep.
But it would not be the first time.
Yep.
So, track 8, Hollow Man.
Hollow Man, it's not that I don't like it, it's just that I just don't care. It's just kind of there. When you come off of a track like Red Baron and Blue Max.
True. I mean, I don't disagree.
It's just kind of there.
That's true, but I'll never skip it if I'm listening to the album.
No, absolutely. If I'm
Yeah.
listening to the whole album, I will. It's not a skippable track.
But
It's
it is,
just
you're right. It's just there. And lyrically, does it have any connection to the overall concept?
yeah.
It kind of stands on its own. It almost makes me think like John Schaefer, if he was writing that, maybe might have been going through something and was like, yeah, this is a song that we've got prepared, is ready. Like, we'll put it on the album kind of deal. Cause like maybe they needed to meet a certain amount of like tracks to put on their album. Kind of like what we were talking about with Striper.
That shouldn't
But
be the case though, because of how long some of these tracks are. Like
y- true.
the
Yeah.
last 3 tracks are damn near 20 minutes.
Yeah, you've got high watermark is over 10 minutes, and then Devil to Pay as well.
Yeah, they're both 12 minutes. Those two
So,
Yep.
tracks.
and
Hold It All Costs.
Hold It All Costs
Seven.
is what, 6 minutes?
7 minutes. I'm looking at it right
Yep.
now.
Yeah. Okay.
Hold at all costs is 7 minutes. Yep.
So
It's one of those things where it was like maybe you could consider it a filler track, but as far as like the writing goes, like it's still a decent track. Like
no,
I
it's
still
still a
like
decent
it.
track. I just don't think it belongs on this record.
As far as like how Ice Earth has a reputation of writing concept albums, right? All the songs fit together in a story. They all flow together. In fact, I would say that this is probably one of their albums that doesn't fall into that category of actually fitting
I,
as a concept album.
I
I
would
mean,
say it does in the history of warfare and stuff like that,
yeah,
except for Hollow Man.
Well, replace.
yeah,
You know what should have happened? If you take out Hollow Man and switch it with Ghosts of Freedom from Horror Show, perfect. Take it right out and put that one right there.
Or if you want to
okay,
take in later Ice Earth content, especially chronologically, this would make a lot of sense.
yeah,
Is Clear the Way.
Yes,
clear the way.
absolutely.
Yeah, I
Because
agree.
that was written about Fredericksburg in 1862.
Yeah.
And then you lead it directly into Gettysburg.
It could have been a case where he was probably still working on those songs and they just weren't finished, but maybe Hollow Man
Well,
was a track that was finished.
I mean,
I,
Clear the Way came out probably
2017.
7 years later.
oh,
No,
7 years later.
10 years later.
13 years later, because it came out in 2017.
Yeah, but this came out in 2003.
Right.
Okay, yeah. Well,
So,
there are some
so
songs that
14
take that
years
long to
later.
finish. I mean, I've heard of like musicians, like they'll take like 6 or 7 years to finish writing a song. And it's just because like they're trying to find the inspiration or they're trying to find things that fit. Like I can see that happening,
But
but
when you come back to
it
that
is pretty
concept
far.
of the Civil War,
Yeah.
like it's pretty blatant that
Yeah.
that was something that maybe he hadn't thought of at the time, but should have been on this record.
Yeah.
And that's a 10-minute song of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would replace. I don't say I hate Hollow Man, but I would replace it with a lot of other tracks that Ice Earth has done
Okay.
over that,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree. I
because
don't
it
disagree.
would fit more consistently with the theme of the album.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
Because even Attila and Red Baron, they're still warfare.
Yeah.
They can still work, yeah. Yeah.
The
Whereas-
next track is probably could be my favorite song on the album. Not named Devil to Pay, Hold It All Costs, and High Watermark.
Just the Gettysburg trilogy.
Yeah, just the Gettysburg trilogy. This next song, track 9, is probably my favorite song, and that's about
It's just a rock opera
yes.
in and of itself.
Yes.
It really is, yeah. It's got all the elements, the storytelling aspect, right? As far as the music goes, it has that transition kind of like high to low, like within the song,
One of my
but still
awesome
maintaining
things
that.
about this song is that they're incorporating traditional songs that were popular at the time
Mm-hmm.
into the music of what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, like, they start off with the Star Spangled Banner, and I believe in the intro to Hold at All Costs, they start doing the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Yep. And
Which
the anthem
is
marching on. Wait, is that Devil to Pay? That.
that is the Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Oh, okay. I should have known that.
But they're introducing popular not only songs but battle marches
Mm-hmm.
from those eras or from that era, and they're incorporating it into their own music.
I
And
don't think even Sabaton does that. Does Sabaton do any of that?
I've never heard them do it, but I wouldn't say they haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, I have not listened to much of Sabaton, so I couldn't comment on it.
Oh,
But
dude, Sabaton, if you're into history,
mm-hmm.
is just chef's kiss. Like,
Yes.
they do a better job about military history than most historians you'll ever meet.
Mm.
Because they do a really good job of telling it from the perspective of the people who fought there
Yeah.
and not putting a political spin on it. Like, there are
Right.
multiple songs that Sabaton has done where the Germans in World War II are actually the good guys. Especially songs like Smoking Snakes or something like that, where even after they had defeated the titular Smoking Snakes, they buried them with full military honors and gave them respect.
Yeah, I mean, really, like, and you can trace this back to most conquering countries. The soldiers are there to fight because they're told to fight. And they're like regular people, just like any of us.
And mostly, if you look through the history,
mm-hmm.
the respected enemies are buried with full military honors.
There
and
are
are shown the same respect we would show our own dead.
Yes, yes. And there was a story, I don't know which battle it was, but there was a story where Germans fighting another army, I think during World War II, I think it was, where they completely stopped fighting during Christmas Day and actually
I remember
That
celebrated
was
with
actually
each
World
other.
War One.
World War One, okay. Yeah.
And they had actually stopped all operations on the front.
Right.
And them
Right.
and I believe the British.
The British, okay, yeah. I didn't
and
want to say
Sabaton
for
actually
sure.
covers that in the Christmas Truce.
Okay. Okay.
And in fact, there's a game that immortalizes it with Verdun, where on Christmas Day every year, every other day of the year, it's the typical trench warfare, yada yada.
Right.
But December 25th every year, they do a special game mode where it's you guys playing soccer against each other and throwing snowballs and stuff like that.
Yeah. What they would have done, basically.
What they did during
Yeah.
1914, but that was the only year it was allowed because all of them were heavily punished for conducting that.
Yeah.
On both sides.
Because higher ups sure wouldn't like that,
Right.
Yeah.
Because it impacts their will to fight.
Mm-hmm. But if you think about it, I mean, we're all just regular people, right?
Well, at least the guys in the trenches are.
The guys in the trenches, yeah. Can't say that about the leadership.
To an extent, yes, and to an extent, no. There were more generals killed during World War I than any war previous.
Okay.
Oh, and that's coming from the British.
Okay.
So a lot of the generals, it really depends on the officer.
Mm.
A lot of the generals wanted to be as close to the battle as they could get
Yeah.
because they wanted to lead from the front. They weren't allowed to because they're generals, and getting cut down in a random machine gun barrage is not going to cut it
Yeah.
for overall strategy. These guys are not just, a platoon leader. They're leading or they're commanding an entire sector.
Yeah.
So they can't. And in some cases they wanted to, but their own staff wouldn't let them.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature of higher staff command. Is that you are now too important to the war effort to replace. And it sucks saying that one human is worth more than another, but is a private worth less than a general
Mm.
in the overall scheme of things? I would say yes. Privates are, barely trained guys who have maybe seen one tour back in the old days.
Yeah.
Nowadays, a Lance Corporal is about the lowest you'll see in the Marine Corps, anyway, that has ever seen combat
Mm.
and come back. And that's if we got assigned to our unit really, really fast and got assigned basically straight into a deployment.
Okay.
Like, I didn't go through that quite. I had almost a year. But I picked up Lance Corporal before I left.
Mm.
And Lance Corporal for us is the same thing as a lot of militaries where you're not an NCO, so you don't really have any responsibility
Gotcha.
unless you're in a team leader billet,
Okay.
which I actually was later on in my career.
Mm.
But I've had an entire team that was made out of Lance Corporals.
Mm.
Actually, no, sorry. One of them was an FNG. He was, PFC straight from fucking training. But the other three of us were all combat Marines. Like, we'd all done a deployment, whatever. And unfortunately for me, but I love this dude to death. My buddy
Mm.
Conroy actually took the 4 because he got promoted ahead of me. But he'd been in like a year longer than I had. So it was one of those. He's now the team leader. I was the team leader before that, but it's one of those you can't take those things personally.
Right. Right.
He's a corporal now.
Mm.
He has to have a team. There's no other team that has an open slot.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not going to make a fuss out of giving up my slot, especially to a guy I know has even more combat experience than I do.
Right. Right.
And he's a great dude too. I talked to him to this day. But no, I mean, it was one of those. I need to step out of the way. And when my turn comes to be a corporal, never ended up happening, but when my day comes, I hope someone does the same for me.
Mm.
But going into the Gettysburg trilogy, holy shit.
Oh, we skipped Waterloo.
Oh, that's right. We did skip Waterloo.
Would you put that as the start of the Gettysburg trilogy,
No.
or no?
It's about
Mm.
Napoleon and his defeat
It's
at
about
Waterloo.
it's about the Battle of Waterloo.
Yeah.
Which was
Right.
in 1815. So I don't see how, other than the beginning of the tactics that would take shape during the American Civil War. And by take shape, I mean be proved to be kind of inadequate
Right.
during the American Civil War.
Yeah, Waterloo didn't have anything to do with that.
Well, it did.
It,
That was the last real clash of armies that were done in the colonial fashion.
last major battle.
Or the colonial era. fashion
Okay. Okay.
Of smoothbore muskets, smoothbore artillery.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
where you had mostly solid shot artillery that were lucky if they were hitting the right county. And a musket that, despite how long the barrel was lucky if it was roughly sending a slug in the direction of the enemy from 100 meters.
Okay.
And that's being very, very generous.
Right. Right.
You could hit a man-sized target from probably 50 meters, if that. So half a football field with a gun. And it took you 20 seconds to reload.
20 if you were fast.
Yeah, 20 was the speed for a skilled marksman.
Yeah.
And actually, that was one of the drawbacks of the rifles during the American Civil War. Well, not during the American Civil War, the Revolutionary War. Is that we mixed musketmen and riflemen in certain formations. And rifles took a lot longer to reload. Because instead of just packing down the powder behind a round lead ball, you were driving, you packed the powder down, and then you were driving a lead ball through the rifling grooves of that rifle.
Mm-hmm.
That was usually much smaller caliber. Which took much longer. Probably 10 seconds longer. Until you got an actual good seat. And being a man who's fired a black powder rifle and a black powder musket,
Right.
there is a distinct difference in feel. When you ram I'm talking, 1780s. So even roughly after this war was fought, although my family rifle is actually older than that. I think it's from the 1770s. It's a flintlock, so we can't actually fire it anymore.
Mm.
Because the lock mechanism, I don't know if you know how that works. It was actually primer. So what you'd have to do is pour out a small portion of black powder into your flash pan,
Mm-hmm.
and then close what you call the frizzen over it. Then you would prime your rifle.
Right.
Right. Oh, I think we got that 70s rock fan in the back.
Oh, we do. Shit.
We do. Yes.
I haven't even seen that.
Oh no! Shout out to Sentinel.
I'm sorry,
Welcome, my
guys.
welcome, my brother.
Sorry, I'm late, buddy. The domestic issues intervened.
Hey, don't worry
glad I
about
made
it.
Glad I made the
here.
end. Well,
Glad
it may
you're
not
here.
be the end. Yeah, happy.
It's not gonna. I mean, it's not gonna be the end now that you're here.
Well, good. Well, happy Independence Day to you all.
Thank you.
You, sir.
So, have we decided
and hopefully
smooth bore or grove bore? Which is the best? We're talking muskets and rifles.
Well, rifles are for a muzzle loader. It's actually kind of a toss-up.
Yeah, speed versus accuracy.
Yeah, exactly. Until you got into the Spencer repeaters during the Civil War, which is actually kind of what we're getting into.
Yeah, I must admit I'm not hugely knowledgeable in the subject. Other than the fact that it took a long time to load these things, and they used to just fire it out in volleys, not worry too much about aiming.
Well, that was actually kind of a thing at Gettysburg, but that was actually kind of starting to change because of the accuracy of the weapons, especially the artillery.
Yeah.
Because you now not only had accurate artillery, you had accurate explosive artillery.
I think that just shredded our.
Well, I mean, what really shredded them was when they got close to the line, and they also followed Napoleon's Grand Battery strategy, where you had all your artillery grouped together.
Brutal stuff.
Well, yeah, but they also had things called canister shot. That when they saw infantry marching up towards them, they'd start ramming down the barrel. And canister shot, if you don't know, is a large shotgun.
Well, wouldn't that be the equivalent of a cartridge in a rifle? If you're talking a canister and
no
artillery, no.
It was basically packed in wooden pulleys that would just get shattered by the blast from the black powder, and all of the buckshot would just come out of the cannon at once. And it wasn't buckshot; it was grape shot.
What's the difference?
Double-aught buckshot is what you'd see now as buckshot, or maybe a BB.
Okay.
Grape shot was the size of a grape.
Oh.
Surprise.
So you're firing this big version of a shotgun with
it's basically a 12
Oh my
gauge.
God.
It's basically a 12 gauge, only on steroids. And it can reach out probably 200 yards.
There's no spread with it.
There's spread. There's a lot of spread.
Okay.
But anything it hits within 200 yards is going to get hit with a musket ball size.
Okay.
Injury.
Man, that's one way to thin out, a bunch of charging troops.
Yeah, basically, if they're about to charge the guns.
Right.
And they did charge the guns, and they even got to some of them. They didn't capture any of them, but they got to some of the batteries. Where the artillerymen were actually fighting hand to hand. Which is insane considering what they're meant to do. That's how close the combat got on Pickett's charge. they came minutes away from breaking the entire Union line. But the Confederacy broke first.
Battle of attrition.
Yep. And the Union unfortunately had more.
It's amazing that Ulysses S. Grant was nowhere near the tactician or strategist that Lee was. And
no, and yet, well, but here's the thing is that the Union was able to replace its losses. The Confederacy wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, less resources overall, plus some outside supply for the Union from other countries.
Actually, the Confederacy was more guilty of that than
the French
the
were trying to supply the Confederacy. Yeah.
Well, not the French, the English.
Yeah, the English supplied the Confederacy, and I think the French
the English
supplied
were
us.
actually
the other way around. Yeah.
At the time of Gettysburg, the English were actually considering an alliance with the Confederacy.
Yeah, anything to fuck the Americans up, so to
Pretty
speak.
much, and
that
was basically their strategy was break us up into two states that hated each other, so that they could come in and basically reclaim their lost colonies.
Well, that could have happened if they had gotten enough infiltration into the Confederacy by then, to the point where were there British troops in the Confederacy, by the way? I'm wondering.
I don't think they ever actually landed troops.
Okay.
They just supplied arms.
Yeah.
Which is also why most of the Confederacy was armed with the 1853 Enfield, which was the British standard arm of the time, whereas a lot of the American or the Union were armed with the 1861 Springfield. Both of them were percussion cap muzzle loaders.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the Springfield actually had the better accuracy, although they were both, they weren't round ball. Both of them. They were Minier ball, or as the Americans call it, mini ball, which was a conical bullet.
You know what I always found fascinating, and I remember going to Fort George in the north of Scotland once, and they had all the guys cosplaying, dressed as 17th and 18th century soldiers and whatever. This was an English fort in the Highlands of Scotland, there for suppression reasons. And
in case you got around.
Yes, in case we started shit, which we did. And
all the
guy was...
He had started the United Kingdom.
Well, that was after all. Well, you have to look at the religious part.
It was before Britain became a global superpower.
So let me go back. There's a Jacobite element and a Protestant element. Some generally Southern Protestant Scots were in favour of a union. Jacobite Catholic Highlanders were not.
And then one of you assholes ended up on the throne of England.
Well, they ran out of royalty. They kept knocking them off, cutting their own royalties' heads off. So they had to reach out to Scotland for one.
Well, I mean, that happens. And you'd all been interbreeding so long that a Scot was the best they could find.
And indeed, and they could have had him for all we knew. But funny, he went to England and never came back. But wonder why. But the better palaces, you see, less drafts. But the guy had he had his musket.
After the show 70s, this necklace that I'm wearing right now, if I can put it on camera.
I can't see.
I actually have a story to tell you about that, which will go unanswered until after the show. So you have to stay here the whole time.
Well, for sure. But the guy that was doing the talk to us tourists was he had all the terms that we still use today that came from 18th century military idioms. So we all know,
Yep.
like, keep your powder dry, obviously, and bite the bullet and stuff. But he had
Yep.
like 100 of these. And I went, oh my God, I never knew that was to do with your musket or to do with the camp followers or whatever.
It was all to do with fucking black
all
powder weapons.
Stuff that we still talk about today and use today is came from that era.
Hell,
from those weapons.
American troops, not necessarily Marines. It's not that common. But between Marines and Army troops, if, like say we get relieved by an Army detachment, we'll get relieved and kind of high five and go, "Hey, keep your powder dry."
Yep, there's just hundreds of these phrases and idioms that came from military use, and bite the bullet, hot shot.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good Scottish one, chewing the fat. That was salted beef and chips.
Fair
chewing
enough.
the fat, which now means talking a lot in Scotland, chewing the fat. Just that a lot of them were naval, but there was all the ones with the muskets. I think he was going. If we did this, we had to do that.
In a country like England, a lot of the military slang is going to be naval.
Yeah, well, it is. Know the ropes and scuttlebutt, loose cannon, feeling blue, wallop.
We still use
walloped.
scuttlebutt.
Oh, exactly.
Over here.
Yeah, sailor's water cooler tank. Yeah, but yeah, all these phrases. Okay, bite the bullet, because it was better to bite a bullet than it was when you were getting a battlefield surgery.
Yeah, exactly. They would just give you a cartridge to bite down on.
Yeah, because
they had nothing else.
Bullets were made of lead, so they were more malleable. They wouldn't break your teeth when you bit down hard when you were having your leg sawn off. Or yeah, all these phrases. I mean, I can't think of all the musket-related ones, but there were dozens of them. He had loads of them. I was so impressed. I wish I could remember them all.
There's almost as many British military idioms or idioms that have made it into mainstream American culture than baseball.
Yeah. I just love all those old phrases. There's just so many, and not just the military ones, but
it's become so ingrained. It's like 3 strikes and you're out.
Yeah, flash in the pan.
That's flash in the pan is
musket misfire.
Still used again today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as someone who owns a black powder firearm from back in the day.
Yep.
Like we still tried to fire my family's rifle a long time, and it worked up until about 3 years ago. And then the sear in the hammer wore out. So we'll have to take it to a gunsmith.
Yeah, but that's another one. Flash in the pan, going off half cocked.
Yep.
Those are all from musket use, going off half cocked. I love that.
That's not necessarily musket. Even percussion lock rifles had a half cocked position.
Yeah, I think it started in the musket use.
Which acted as the safeties.
Lock, stock, and barrel.
Yep.
Yeah, these phrases, lock, stock, and barrel. Here's one that isn't military that I always used to like. Cost you an arm and a leg. You say, oh, that'll cost you an arm and a leg. That's because painters in the old days who were doing portraits would charge you by the number of limbs. So if you ran out of cash, you'd lose an arm and a leg.
Well, shit. That's why there's so many portraits of Civil War veterans. They were missing an arm or a leg or both.
Yeah. Well, it was cheaper to get a painting of them then, wasn't it?
Exactly.
But I love that stuff. These things that we still say today that came from all those old.
But no, what do you think?
Actual meanings.
What do you think of this album?
Oh, I've only just had a couple of YouTube clips. I can't comment too much, mate. I've got my list from you. I'm working my way through now. So.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm sorry. I've been working. This is my first day off in over a week, and I'm just
No, I can't blame you for that.
I've had long shifts, extra shifts, and I've had no time.
And not
to do
everyone
nothing.
has a job like me where I can literally just put on an album and rock for an hour.
I used to have those jobs, but don't worry. Come October, I'll be retired again. So
fair enough.
I will be
and then I'll be moving to a place
You're
that
moving
has,
and I'm moving.
has terrible internet.
I'm trying to move myself somewhere, so I'm right there with you.
Actually, 70s. I sent a package up to your area not too long ago.
To my area.
Yeah.
You did?
British Columbia.
Ah. Oh, I see. I'll keep an eye out for it. I'll ask the neighbours if they've seen a package. That's like an old. There's an old joke. Right, hear me out. An old joke that they tell in the north of Scotland. So you're probably 500 miles from London. You're living in the north of Scotland. It's rural nowhere, and London's the big city in the south of England. So the joke goes: the guy goes, he's taking a load of, there's a lot of forestry up there. He's taking a load of wood to London. That's his job, the lorry driver. So he gets in the lorry, he drives all day and all night and through the night, and he finally gets close to London, and he sees the sign, "Welcome to London," and he sees a guy walking along the road. So he stops the truck and he goes, "Hey pal, where do you want these sticks?" It's like the first guy he sees, he thinks everybody knows each other. That's the joke. If you have to explain it, it doesn't work. Where do you want this load?
Where do you want these sticks?
Where do you want these sticks? It's like the first guy he sees in a city of 10 million people. He says, "I'm here in London now. Where do you want these?" Because everybody knows each other up in the north.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I see what you're saying.
That joke fell as flat as a Brie Larson's arse.
No.
She is a plank of wood.
But I tried. But yeah, it's just like everyone knows each other in a small place, and they go to the big place to think the same thing. You know?
Yeah.
You want these?
Well, I mean, that's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
Out in the sticks, everyone knows each other.
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes
Or
that's a good thing.
at the
Sometimes
very-
it's a bad thing.
At the very least, everyone knows where something should go.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
Whereas when you go to a city like London, like say you brought a load of timber to Tewkesbury, I'd point you to, Moynihan Lumber in Wilmington. Like, hey, that's probably where they're going. They're going to get cut up and turned into lumber.
Yeah. But yeah, sometimes it's a good thing to know everybody, and sometimes it's a very bad thing.
Yeah, well,
Everyone knows your business, but then they're there to help you when things go wrong. That's the double-edged sword of small communities.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been like this album. I think is more so than the America Fuck Yeah, or the Team America World Police album. This is and that actually came out later.
Right, it came out like summer because I was just reading that the Glorious Burden came out January 14th or January 12th of 2004, so it was released really earlier in the year.
Yeah,
and Team America was a huge hit, but that wouldn't come out till like spring at the very earliest. And the Team America song, I mean, it was written as satirical.
Yeah, and
whereas this is written as a goddamn saluting tribute.
Yeah, these were written as a tribute to America, for the most part.
Yeah, sorry, exactly. I know who these guys are. Sorry, yeah, Anthem, yeah, Anthem. I know the song Anthem.
Anthem is a great song, by the way.
Yeah, that is a good one. I think that's my third favorite song off of Dystopia.
Yeah, it's Dystopia, right? Yeah, I've encountered them, but I'm going to get deeper into this, yeah, for sure. And I do want to do that show you're talking about, but I can't remember all the initials. The new wave of traditional heavy metal. I have to say it out loud because I can't acronym that one.
These guys wouldn't be part of that. These guys started in like 1992.
Oh, well.
1985, Ice Earth actually formed, and they were Purgatory.
Well, but I'm talking when they first recorded was like 1992.
No, they released their first album in 1990. Their self-titled debut was 90. Yeah,
okay.
It was 90, and then the now what is it? Fuck.
They were stuck in
Storm
purgatory.
Rider. It's a Storm Rider album. Night of the Storm Rider was released in '92, and that's a fucking classic. That's like
that's the first album I'm aware of.
Well, it's a leap. It's a sonic leap from their self-titled debut. Self-titled debut has some really good songs on it, but it's more of like almost like a demo.
Okay.
It
Night
is
of the Storm Rider is when it really, that's like Iced Earth full on everything.
And we'll go into this more when we go into Iced Earth as a band, and we will do that at some point because I love this band.
Yeah.
So I'm just listening to The Devil to Pay right now.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
And we are going to be covering all three parts of that.
Sounds pretty cool.
When it comes to a It's Only Talk and Roll about rock operas, this trilogy will be in there.
Oh shit, that's another great topic. Hang on, I've got too many topics and not enough days to do shows. Come October, it'll be every week again, so we can fit them all in.
So you would put up if you say the Gettysburg trilogy is in and of itself a rock opera album, like
yes.
The Crimson Idol by Wasp or Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche?
I wouldn't say it's those are concept albums.
Yeah, there's a difference. What is the difference between a concept album and a rock opera?
Well, that's a good question.
That is a good question.
So
I think that the real difference is every song in that trilogy belongs together.
Yes.
They were written as one piece.
So one of the big distinctions that I would make, especially looking at it from a songwriting perspective, is when you have a rock opera, you're going to have at least one song, but it can be 2 to 3, sometimes even 4, depending on how the band or the songwriter puts it together. But you're going to have a series of songs that'll be put together that belong together, exactly as how you say. Where a concept album it's the entire album, the set of like 10 to 12 to 14 songs, however, or it could just be 8 songs, however many songs that the band or the songwriter of the band decides to put together as one contingent or like one entire piece that flows together. But even though they're different songs, they tell parts of the same story that they're trying to write. Whereas a rock opera, you can kind of fit that into an album, but it's going to stand apart as its own sort of like mini series, you could say.
My best example of that would be 2112.
Yes.
By Rush.
Yes. 2112 is definitely.
It had other songs on the album.
Yeah.
But 2112 by itself, they considered it.
2112, the beer.
Thank you, sir. I was hoping you were going to say that.
That's awesome.
But that is a song, or that is a rock opera into itself.
Mm-hmm.
So
the rest of the album is kind of irrelevant.
I would also suggest that typically, not always, typically a rock opera is meant to be performed in order from start to finish as one piece.
Exactly. You don't have any breaks between the songs, right?
Which I would consider the Gettysburg trilogy that. And that when you see how well they flow into each other, in that even I have trouble telling where one track ends and the other one starts.
Basically, The Glorious Burden is the if you go back to the Something Wicked album, The Glorious Burden gets its heritage from the last 3 tracks of that. Prophecy,
yeah,
they have
Wicked, and The Coming Curse.
They had the track 1776 on Something Wicked as well.
Sure.
So I think maybe that may have been the start of John Schaefer developing the ideas.
It may be me as an asshole, but I really, really hate the date of 1776 because we had already been fighting the English for almost a year. Actually, by July 4th, 1776, it was over a year.
Yeah, it was at that point that at least history teaches that was when
the beginning of the American Revolution was April 19th, 1775.
Yeah. It was
I should
well
know
over
one
a
of my
year at that
ancestors
point.
was there.
Well over a year at that point. I agree. I think that's just when they had solidified. That's when the revolution happened, I guess.
And actually, not only was the Marine Corps already in existence, the Marine Corps had already carried out their first raid on March 3rd, 1775 against New Providence.
Okay.
And had raided 2 forts, seized a bunch of powder and shot to be brought back to the United States.
So
because we were desperately in need of cannon.
Right.
And also powder to use with it because we were severely limited in our ability to make powder by the British.
So I know that there was a lot of what they'd called skirmishes, right? Before 1776 had happened.
Well,
or
that
at least
wasn't
that
a skirmish. This was the first battle of the war.
Right. Okay.
Lexington and Concord were combined into one battle. And that was the first battle of the war. And after that, there was the Siege of Boston.
Right.
Where, coincidentally, they managed to hold out until March 17th, 1776. But basically from April 1775, including the Battle of Bunker Hill, which we technically lost, but the British lost so many forces doing so that, or driving us off those hills, that we actually ended up winning.
Yeah, the attrition of that.
Yeah, and
they had long supply lines.
The only thing they gained was that we were no longer able to shell Charleston Harbor. Which was which at the time was one of the biggest shipyards on the East Coast. Hey, Dragon Master, how you doing, man? But no, that was the situation going into the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Is that the northern states, especially New England, had already declared rebellion. It was a matter of whether the other colonies would follow us. And actually, that's one of the roots of the Massachusetts and New York rivalry. New York was the only colony that voted against helping us.
Yeah, it was the least keen on independence.
It was the only one that voted against helping us.
Right.
Which, fuck New York. I hope that city burns to the fucking ground.
It's happening. I've got a nice image to share with you, Pope, if you're...
Oh, it's burning to the ground. It's burning to the ground, but just very, very slowly. It's like it's boiling to the ground, basically.
Simmering. I'll drink to that.
I just found it funny, that's all. I don't agree with him, but I find it funny.
Oh, I love it.
I mean, one of these days, I'm going to go over to England on July 4th, and when the customs agent asks me if I have anything to declare, I'm just going to yell independence.
Independent freedom.
That is funny.
Yeah, you'll be the very definition of a loudmouthed yank to them.
I don't even give a shit. I'll deal with the extra.
You've got all these bitter and twisted Brits. They're all bitter and twisted because they're cold and miserable. Crowded, cold and miserable in their little island, their little cold, wet island.
So nothing's changed since we left, I see.
Exactly.
And the funny part is, my family, or my dad's family, is actually from England, and they're
Yeah.
actually the older of my North American connections. They came over in like 1640.
What, 20 to 7? Sorry, 20 20 to, sorry, 20 to 5.
Sorry, 1640 AD.
16, well, 1640 AD. Oh, is that as far back as you can go? No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, to you guys,
Beats
that's actually
me.
fairly trivial.
No, I can't. We can only go back to the early 1700s in our family. But we
My-
were all
my-
poor.
my
We were all
grandfather-
poor people.
Well,
Poor people didn't have
my
records.
grandfather actually tracked our family back to the 900s when we were actually Norman knights,
Yeah, yeah.
and we came over with William.
I had a feeling there was some French in you. No, I know. I'm just kidding. So yeah, we could only really get back to the early 1700s because being poor people, and we didn't have records of us.
Well, in fact, I don't know if you know the north of England at all.
I do very well.
We were actually given Castle Sowerby
All right.
for a while.
Yeah, it's probably a ruin, so probably not
Well,
worth
it
it.
probably is now, but
Yeah, there's not very many standing castles or
Well,
abbeys or churches in the south of Scotland or the north of England.
That was our fief
Yeah.
for a long time. Was Castle
Alright.
Sowerby and probably Sowerby Bridge.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Um,
One of my ancestors probably burnt it to the ground.
and
And then
You
we
know what?
pillaged the women and raped the cattle.
Oh no, not the
You're not
cattle.
wrong.
That's our food. No.
Well, that's
He's
why
a break, man.
that's why they wear the kilts, so the sheep don't hear them coming.
It's just convenience. It's you sleep with one sheep and no one will let you forget it.
Hey, you and the Welsh can share that sty.
I'm not touching a sheep that the Welsh have been near. Ugh.
Ooh.
Have you no standards, no morals? You know what they say that everyone likes to say, oh, well, you know what, my ancestor was a king or whatever. It's true. They were. Everybody's ancestor is a king. They've proved that if you go back to Charlemagne, we're all related to Charlemagne.
Well,
Because it goes like this. It goes like this.
At least Christopher Lee is. And
Yes.
those were two amazing albums, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that man knows how to do metal. Or
And
knew how to do
you know who
metal.
played guitar on that?
Dan
those two,
Vask was involved, but I don't know.
right? You know who played guitar on those, right?
I
Richie
can't remember.
Faulkner.
Richie Faulkner from Judas Priest.
Oh,
cool.
okay.
The
I
man-
know
Okay.
Dan Vask was involved to some extent. You know, Dan Vask does
Was
Nerdrotics.
he?
Yeah, he was involved in the second album, he said. Backing vocals or
Cool.
something, or...
Yeah, I would believe. Yeah.
Dude,
Okay,
I would love to have him on this channel. Like,
Yes.
I
I'd
would-
Absolutely.
shoot the shit with them too. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
dude, it would be awesome to talk to him like I talk to you guys.
it would
Have
be
some
good.
beer or some whiskey or something.
I'd love to
especially-
have Christopher Lee on the channel too, but that might be a bit harder.
Well, I mean,
You have to perform a seance for that one.
Tap the table, tapping the table. Christopher! What a man he was, though. What a man.
Herbs, you're the spiritual one among us. Make this happen.
Renaissance man.
I'll get some candles and some incense put together.
But no, I don't know that anyone can ever replace Christopher Lee, especially because he actually was related to Charlemagne.
But we all are. Genetically speaking, we all are. Virtually everyone in the Western world is related to Charlemagne
Yeah,
because
and
that's the way it
anyone-
works over 1,000 years.
And pretty much anyone in Asia is related to Genghis Khan.
That's right. It's
Yeah.
just the way it works.
Because he raped that many people.
Yeah, it is a genetic spread over 1,000 years. They spread pretty far. So
Yeah. You
No,
could
you-
say Charlemagne's like our modern day Moses, I guess.
Yeah.
certainly a major
Sort of.
figure, yeah, in medieval history,
Mm.
keeping the Western civilization together.
I would say Leonidas more than Moses.
Leonidas. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Although he only had one child.
It was, yeah. Well, they
According-
led a rough life.
According to the
Perspective.
mythology, yeah.
Well, that's the thing is we're starting to blur the lines between what was mythology and actual history.
Yeah.
Herodotus was the first what we would call actual historian.
Mm.
It is interesting that a lot of our knowledge of history is based upon very scant testimony and
By a couple
written,
of people, if not one author.
and many of that was on their part was apocryphal. They wrote about things they'd heard about happen 500 years before them, but they had no written testimony.
We used to think so, and then we started discovering archaeological evidence of a lot of this shit.
Yeah, some of it backs it up. Yeah, but there's
Like,
so many gaps and
The thing,
misconceptions.
like everyone used to dismiss Homer as legend, and yet we discovered the ruins of Troy.
Well, often legends are based in fact. I mean, things about the biblical flood or whatever. I mean, that could be.
Well, that's not just
written as a memory of something that happened, like a tsunami.
That's not just Judeo-Christianity.
There's floods in every
every origin myth or every religion from that period has a flood myth.
Yeah, Babylonian onwards, yeah.
Yep.
So from even before Babylon,
Sumerian, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they say it predates them. So it's somewhere before Sumer.
Well, when you look at
power.
when you look at the fact that there used to be a Dogger Bank between England and North Europe, there was a huge big tract of land in the North Sea. The English Channel was connected 10,000 years ago. Things did rise, and there was floods. So that could be where a lot of that came from.
So was the Bering Strait.
There was also, I think it was on the American continents. Actually, no, it was discovered in Turkey, Göbekli Tepe, where it was that just ginormous mound that they built a bunch of dirt over, but they dug continuously and found these like ornate statues.
Well, that's also why genetically Asians have a lot more in common with American Indians.
Yeah.
And Mexicans.
Yeah.
Well, they came over the Bering Strait, Mongolian and
anybody
other
else
Asian.
does.
Yeah.
Because they're basically not
Mongolian
the same
Asians.
Well, they're not the same people, but they're
pretty close though.
Very close.
Genetically, they're very close. Culturally,
even the further north you get, when you get into the Inuit and the what we used to call the Eskimos, etc., wherever they are all extremely close genetically to Asian, Western Asian.
But they're all very insular, and at this point, probably inbred.
They've not had a lot of outside interference. Yeah, just as you said, insular. It's not a lot of interference because they're so isolated in the area they're at.
What that turns into, especially in remote parts of the world, is inbreeding, which also explains why the Middle Easterners are so inbred, because they take multiple wives. And
they're tribal. They don't like outsiders. So
right,
as the human race is,
even distrusting of their
but even as
tribes,
tribal humans or like savage humans go, as I'll call them, because guess what? Fuck you, Middle Easterners. You're goddamn savages. They are very insular, and they will marry their own cousins before they marry an outsider.
Right.
Yeah, but it wasn't only 1,000 years ago that would have been the same everywhere.
Well,
you married the somebody from your own village or the village next to you. If you were of peasant stock, you didn't travel far to get a bride.
Right.
And I have a story for you about that, 70s, when we get off stream.
I don't want to hear about your peasant stock incest.
Yeah, because it's kind of personal, but it is accurate.
Yeah, that family tree don't fork.
Yeah, well, that. I mean, the fortunate part is my dad's side does.
Mm.
Now you're going to tell me you slept with your mother.
Oh
God, no.
my
Why?
god!
Oh God!
I like this guy. We should have him on streams more often. The humor.
Why? Why do you think I'm a regular?
Wait a minute. I mean, I slept with your mother. Sorry, that was.
That was going to be my intro if you showed up on time. Is actually my internet dad.
That's right. I'd be honored to have you as a son. I would steal all your records. And never
Yeah,
give
you're
them back.
right. We could
Go out and cut the lawn, and then I'd nick all your records. What records? What albums? I didn't see any albums. You take better care of your stuff.
Where'd those go? You must have lost them in the last move, son.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You should keep track of your stuff better.
I'm just using your game console. Hope you don't want it.
Honestly, at this point, you could pretty much have mine.
Yeah. The good thing about my father was he absolutely hated rock music. There was no chance he was going to steal any of my shit.
Well, hey. There's benefits.
He hated everything I liked.
Mm.
Well, I mean, I went through the same with my own dad.
Yeah,
Problem
that's
was,
fine.
the problem was he grew up in the 70s.
Mm.
Yeah, you would think he'd be more.
No, he's straight up a normie when it comes to rock music. He was one of those guys that the Beatles were his favorite band.
Yeah, I love the Beatles. Don't get me wrong.
Hey, they were a big thing back.
They were influential as hell. I don't say I like them.
But that's fine. You don't have to like them. No, but people do. I mean, I've got an abiding love of the Beatles and what they achieved, but it doesn't mean I don't have 10,000 other records.
Right.
That's far from my hottest take. I can say I absolutely hate the Doors.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan. No.
I really do not like
too twiddly
in any way, shape, or form.
The only song I can really recall by the Doors is Pinball Wizard that I've heard on a regular
basis. That's not the Doors.
But that's the Who.
The Who?
Yeah, that's the Who.
Well, I just got schooled.
And the Who are the greatest rock band in history.
Oh my god.
They're one of the greatest rock bands in history. We still need to do part 2 of that, by the way.
It's on the list. I've got a list this long of shows, and I might do some side shows because I'm going to have to do some side shows, just impromptu, which I don't prepare as much for. Because it takes me a while.
If you're just listening to the Devil's Pay, it must mean you've listened to the rest of the album. So
no, I've only listened to that one track.
Oh man,
yeah,
then you're fucking missing out.
But I'll get there. Give me a chance.
I gave you like a month.
You have no idea how much shit I've got on my list. This is the list of shit I've got to watch. Right? This is just shit I've got to watch, never mind listen to.
Welcome to my life. I never get to listen to anything new or,
I listen to shit in the car because it's the only time I get the chance.
What I want to listen to because I'm listening to shit for a stream.
Yeah, and I'm watching shit for streams and videos, but I'll get there.
All right.
Trust me, I'll do my prep. What I'm thinking is next Monday, hear me out. I don't want to do anything to do with music. I was thinking I wanted to do Outland, the movie Outland. I want to do some sci-fi. I want to do a movie.
I'll have to find it, but I'll
I feel like just doing a movie. I don't want to do music every week because I do other things too. And then the week after that, I would do the new wave of traditional heavy metal.
Actually,
or 2 weeks after that.
You know what I wanted to cover, and I know you'll love this, is science fiction franchises you wish got more attention.
Oh, I do. See,
that's an interesting one.
Farscape? I don't know if you all have ever seen Farscape, but the main actor for Farscape transitioned over to Stargate.
SG-1, yeah.
Yep.
I thought you were going to say transition to a woman or something.
Transitioned. That word just triggered me.
hear
He
that
moved
nowadays.
over. He moved over.
Farscape was fucking phenomenal, and so was
Transferred.
SG1.
I loved Farscape and SG1.
Thank you. Yeah,
love
those
that
are
shit.
both great shows. Absolutely.
Atlantis was good for most of its run, and then
But there's a
the
whole bunch of
SGU
those.
thing
Yeah,
happened.
that would make a good show.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be right back. Just
I like
for a
Lex.
second.
You ever watch Lex? Canadian sci-fi, adult sci-fi thing. It was really weird, but it had its moments.
Lex.
Yeah, quite
I had
raunchy
never
as
heard
well.
of that.
I don't think I've heard of it either.
Yeah, it's a Canadian sci-fi thing from the 90s, 80s and 90s.
Mm.
It's weird. Look it up. It's good. It's Canadian though, so you know.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
although I guess it was kind of post-heavy metal, and that was a Canadian movie, so it has similar sensibilities, I would say.
Mm.
But yeah, there's a lot of, you know, I mean, I for better or worse, I did love Firefly, and that didn't last. That lasted the one season. There's a bunch of those, you know, if you want to cover stuff that didn't have legs that maybe should have. Farscape was great though. Brilliant show. Absolutely brilliant show.
Absolutely. The effort that they put into the costume design, I think, is one of the few things that really stood out to me. Not just like the story writing, setting, and plot, but it really the how much time that they put into that. Thinking about like all the costumes that they came up with, it's like some of the wacky stuff that they had. It was great. Like
the character designs, hands down, were I can still remember them. So they have some iconic staying power. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure. And one of those few things you'd want to pick up a DVD of if you saw it in a store. But
yeah, see, Star Trek Next Generation and the spin-offs tended to suck all the oxygen out of the room for certain other shows, and I think Farscape, there's an awful lot of TNG is crap. You know, I mean, like 50% of the episodes were pretty bad. So whereas a show like Farscape was far more consistent episode to episode, I thought, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The quality was better every episode. The writing was good almost every episode. Whereas TNG was hit and miss.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. I don't, and it's funny too because I don't meet a lot of people that will go to Farscape as being a good quality sci-fi show because they'll, I don't know, just from the talking to Trekkies or otherwise, Farscape is a gem for sure.
Yeah, I think so, and it's something I could watch, and I have watched. I've probably watched it all a couple of times, right, start to finish. You know, I could probably watch it again. You know, I just love the. I love the kind of the creations. You know, I wouldn't call them puppets, but you know, the animatronic puppet stuff. I thought it was brilliantly done. You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for its time as well. I mean, we were talking an era where there was no. Well, I mean, there might have been some CGI, probably was in those days, but this was all mainly practical effects as well, and some digital. But the use of animatronics, I thought, was brilliant. You know, I really liked that.
Yeah. I could see the CGI with the like outer shots of the ship and things like that. But yeah, definitely on seeing like inside the ship, the set designs and the costumes and
sets and costumes are outstanding. Yeah.
It was that was the show. Was that the show with the actress Claudia Black?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that must have been the first time I ever heard her. Thick
that was
Australian accent, but just gorgeous.
I think one of her first credits as an actor.
Because that's where I first heard of her. I was watching probably an episode that was on TV or rerun. That's where I first noticed her, and I was just like,
totally captivated. I am now and always will be a Trekkie. And you know what? I am actually having more or less a good time with Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, you know, I've never seen a single episode of that.
I mean,
ever.
It's only available on Paramount Plus. But if you
there's no such thing as only available.
Well, I mean,
If you sail the high seas, you know where to look.
this is YouTube. We do not support piracy on this channel.
No, nobody.
I didn't say anything about
ever.
piracy. I just said sailing.
However, I can recommend some good VPNs if anyone's no.
Yeah, also known as Gar Har Har. It's just a coincidence that 70s is the perfect accent for a pirate.
Roger Predactor here. Jolly Roger Predactor.
But no, I mean,
yeah, but I think Stranger Things is on Netflix. Well, it is in Canada anyway.
No, I mean, is it?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
It's on Paramount Plus in the US.
Well, I did not. Things I did not know. Where's that music?
I didn't know that either. I keep hearing good things about the new season of Stranger Things, and like people keep saying, "Watch it." Strange New World. Strange New World. Okay, my deaf ass. My bad.
Star Trek: Strange New Worlds is
Strange New
different
World.
than Stranger Things season 4.
I know.
I thought Stranger Things was a Netflix show, but that's just me. Star Trek's Paramount Plus.
Right.
Yeah.
Star Trek, like that's the entire reason I got Paramount Plus is to watch the old Star Trek series.
Mm.
And you know what? I watched the Strange New Worlds series just to see what it's about, and you know what? It feels like Trek.
It's better. Imagine if they'd done that instead of the Discovery shit. People might have given them a bit of a break, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Is, you know what? I'm one of the few people who actually like could get through the first episode, which is kind of cringe, but it's improving a lot. I would equivalent it to Enterprise season 1.
And that show wasn't bad, and it got a lot better as it went on.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually quite enjoyed it.
They're trying to figure out what this show is, just like Enterprise was in the first season.
Enterprise first episode at least had a hot Vulcan silhouette shot.
And
she was going through the showers or whatever they were.
They did continue that throughout the series. God bless them. And God bless you, Jolene Blaylock.
Yes.
And the funny part is apparently she just did that because she wanted to. That was not just a financial incentive.
Salute.
God bless America.
Yeah.
God bless
big old American breasts. When it comes to Star Trek, I mean, it's all very well watching it on streaming, but I prefer it on the original 78 RPM shellac discs.
That's old school right there.
That's an old person's joke.
I mean, the first time I remember watching Star Trek was with my dad as a kid in 1989. Watching TNG.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched Star Trek every Saturday with him, at least when it was in season.
That's nice. Yeah.
For the next, all of the run of TNG and also DS9. I love Deep Space Nine gets so much stick, and I don't know why.
It's all right. I don't mind it. I love the episode where they were mixed up with the original Star Trek, the Tribbles one. I thought that was a fantastic use of whatever the hell happened, time travel or whatever.
Well, I like the fact that they tried to advance the Star Trek storyline.
Yeah.
And give them an enemy they can't handle. Because, throughout TNG, Star Trek the Federation is supposed to be like one of the most advanced species out there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And through the early seasons of DS9, that continues on. And yet, then they discovered the Borg and the Dominion within a couple of years of each other, actually.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
And also, we run into the fact that the Federation is not perfect.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't mind it being not perfect. Now they make it look like they're a bunch of warmongering, inept assholes.
Well, that's the
instead
thing
of just not perfect.
That's the thing that pissed me off. It's just like, you've gone against everything the Federation ever stood for.
Yeah.
Mm.
What they also seem to ignore.
You know what? I could see a little bit of xenophobia or, territorialism after the Dominion War.
But they also seem to treat people in the modern Star Trek as absolute shit. They treat them like shit. They're all volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't have to do this. They could sit back at home sucking up the benefits of advanced Marxist alien, Marxist utopia that the Federation apparently is. Instead, they've chosen to go and serve on these ships, some of them in lowly positions, and they get treated like shit by these assholes in Discovery at the bridge.
I can hardly comment on that. I did join the United States Marine Corps voluntarily.
Yeah, but you don't live in a Marxist utopia. Which is what the Federation was. It was like everyone had everything they ever wanted.
When we have
you chose to do things because you wanted to do them. Yeah. I had a lot of sympathy for the Borg. Yeah, let's fuck the Federation up. And more sympathy for the Romulans, to be honest.
That's also where the communists fall apart, when they try to point out the Federation as like a sci-fi aspiration. It's not communism. It's a post-scarcity society.
Well, it's utopian. There's no scarcity of anything.
Exactly. Yeah. It's post-scarcity.
But that's why, if you could choose to serve in the Federation military, which is what it is.
Well, I mean,
you in your street sweeping the corridors. You're doing it because you choose to. Why get treated like shit by a superior because you do?
Well, I mean, it's not in a lot of ways. They portrayed the latter day Trek portrays the Federation a lot more militaristic than it was in the early days when Gene was actually alive.
Yeah, the funny thing was they had all that great, strange to seek out new worlds and like explore, and the next minute it was shoot to kill.
Well, yes, but the Constitution class was like the Enterprise, the original Enterprise, was built for that.
Yeah, well, you have to defend yourself.
Exactly, because they were built to defend themselves against whatever they ran up against.
We come in peace, shoot to kill, shoot to kill.
Hey!
That's the old Star Trekking across the universe. Hey, I'm sharing a really nice photograph with you, and you're not even looking at it.
Oh.
This is my bedroom when I was 12 years old.
Oh, no.
Look at those posters. I wish I still had them today. Star Trek poster magazines, I had all of them. This was just a few of them. Eventually the walls were covered in them. And they were all, I wish I had them now. Don't know what happened to them. They were great. Anyway, that's one of the few remaining photographs from that era.
I miss the original Trek, but possibly the best.
Loved it.
Possibly the best Trek that there's ever been, like the best scene in Trek, was Star Trek the Motion Picture, where we got to see the refit Enterprise for the first time.
Yeah, I had a good nap during that. It was so long.
It was long, but goddamn, was it worth it?
It looks beautiful. I'll give them that. Yeah.
It was straight up shit porn.
It was ship porn. Yeah, it was actually. Yeah, I haven't seen any of the new version of it where it's cleaned up. But
I've never heard that term before. I'm sorry.
Oh, ship porn. Yeah, people are into stuff like that. The minutiae of the ships. They're ship porn.
Actually, the redux of the motion picture actually lengthens that scene.
Does it lengthen it? Yeah. Good, I can really have a nap now then, like a proper nap, not just a quick micro sleep.
I loved it because you can basically fall in love with the ship all over again, just like Kirk is watching.
Well, I'm glad that you liked that part of it, because much as I was keen on having a Star Trek movie at the time, I felt that there wasn't quite enough of a threat in it It was kind of weak.
Yeah, Veacher was kind
A
of
bit weak, really, you know. And it was cold. It was a very cold movie. Spock was too cerebral, and Wrath of Khan, that's a movie.
You're not wrong.
That's a
You're
movie.
not wrong.
God. Yeah.
Wrath of Khan was a hell of a movie, and Search for Spock was no less. I feel like that's got left behind in the TMP era.
Well,
because it had much less shit porn and much more actual story.
Wasn't that the one where Spock's son gets killed?
No,
or was that the third one?
It was where Spock actually comes back and Kirk's son gets killed.
Yeah, sorry, Kirk's son was killed in the third movie, wasn't he? Which is pretty shocking.
Yeah, and in
now
Star
we know
Trek,
why he hates the Klingons.
Well, and in Star Trek 6, you actually see the result of that.
Yeah, he hates the Klingons.
Yeah, it's just like, especially when they're in that planning session, and he's just like, and him and Spock actually have a one-on-one.
Not in front of the Klingons.
Well, no.
But, no, that was which was at the end of the 6 that they had that joke. Or
no, before
not
that,
in front of the Klingons.
Before that, he goes, and Spock just goes, Jim, they're dying. Let them die.
Yes, it's powerful stuff.
No, it is. And
it doesn't dress anything up and tries to be nicey.
This is in the late 80s.
Yeah.
This is probably what Star Trek 6 was what 89.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the start of the TNG ones was the early 90s, so yeah.
Well, yeah, but TNG had already started when this had kicked off because Michael Dorn actually plays his own grandfather.
That's right. Yeah. No, TNG had been going for a while, but the TNG movies started. I know they were on in the early 90s. I remember going to the cinema with a bunch of other Trekkie people to see them. They were all dressed up. I wasn't, but you know.
I mean, I was born in '87, but I love these movies. I love these movies.
You're practically a fetus.
Well, it's your fault for that tryst behind the stairs.
That's true. Yeah. Hell, I've never even met your mother, and I got her pregnant. That's how virile I am. I'm potent. If you want to look important, you got to dress important.
That's not wrong. That's not wrong.
But no, I mean, this album is just America. Fuck yeah, the anthem.
I'm gonna give it a listen. Mate. Don't worry, I'll get into it.
Can we talk a little about Gettysburg use of a I think it was a 120-piece orchestra in some parts.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to double check that if you want. But
yeah, absolutely check
powerful.
it. But I've heard the same thing you have, is that the Gettysburg trilogy, they actually did like those, songs that went into each song in the, like those classical pieces that went into each song were actually done by a full orchestra.
And that's powerful stuff. A 120-piece orchestra is not to be sniffed at.
Yeah.
Produces a lot of sound.
Mm-hmm.
The heavy metal of its day, Beethoven.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the orchestra was the orchestra used on the Gettysburg trilogy, I believe, was the Prague Philharmonic Orchestra. Now, I can't confirm. See, on the Gettysburg DVD that they released, there's an orchestral version of the 3 songs that is included as a bonus. And I can't quite say for certain if that same Prague Philharmonic Orchestra had music parts in the main Gettysburg trilogy on the CD, or if they were just used specifically for that DVD. I'm gonna lean more towards that they were used to provide instrumentation into the entire album itself, but specifically for the Gettysburg trilogy.
Okay.
Well, that would make sense given that they were playing before, the actual metal kicks in a lot of tracks. They were playing songs that were common in the American Civil War.
Yeah. Also, the use
things like
of
the Battle Hymn of the Republic and the Star Spangled Banner.
Right. They also had, well, specifically High Watermark. I love the beginning with the Richard Christie, who doesn't get enough recognition as one of the greatest metal drummers in the genre.
Yeah.
He is doing this great, drum intro, and he's doing that throughout like the first minute, and you can hear this beautiful violin playing alongside it, and these beautiful notes. If you remember, on specifically High Watermark, I'm talking about, and then it's playing all throughout the song.
I hear what you're saying, like,
and then the drumming is going on, but there's also percussionists providing extra percussion throughout the song.
Mm-hmm.
The ones who are doing just kind of like the
more traditional percussion.
Yeah, the marching kind of beats.
That would have been with an army of that time.
Right, exactly.
The Prague Philharmonic Orchestra apparently are the most requested orchestra for recording on music, other people's music, like bands, film and TV, according to their own website. And I've seen their name so many times. They're also currently doing a tour of Europe called Rock the Opera, where they do Pink Floyd, Deep Purple, AC/DC, and Queen. So that would be good to go see. I'd love to go see that.
By the way, there's a certain favorite band of mine that I have an extra ticket to. 70s, if you would like to come to Boston.
Is it Accept?
No.
Judas Priest.
Yes.
I know. I'm looking at those dates. I'm thinking, where the fuck am I going to go? Because they're not coming anywhere near me. I'm going to try and do something. Now, when's the date in Boston?
October 16th.
16th.
Okay.
So the problem with October is I'm moving house, moving provinces.
Me too, man.
Which wouldn't be a problem if I wasn't. But say that quietly. I'll talk to you.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. I mean, I'll be nearer a big airport, which is a good thing, Calgary Airport. So direct flights all over the US from there.
And Logan is one of the major hubs.
Yeah, so it's not like it's that difficult to get there. So it's only for a night or 5.
And Boston is one of the local hubs, and you're right there. Like,
Logan
is straight up in Boston.
Yeah, I've been through it a couple of times.
And I might be able to show you the USS Constitution while you're there.
Oh, that would be something.
Nice. What's the one that's I've been on the one in Manhattan. It's not the Eisenhower, is it? What's the
No.
I went to July 4th. I was on the fireworks.
USS Intrepid is the one.
Intrepid. I've been there for July 4th, sitting on the deck in the fireworks.
Well, if you want to go down for that, that's USS Massachusetts, a South Dakota class battleship. And I will say there is nothing more impressive in the water than a World War II era battleship.
Yeah.
The Intrepid was amazing. We got to see around it before the fireworks. It was.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The carriers from that period are vitally impressive. They're huge, but they just don't have the presence.
Yeah.
Of an actual big gun battleship.
Yeah.
Just imagine that shelling the shit out of somebody.
I mean, we were talking about it earlier in the Vietnam War, an Iowa class USS New Jersey. Actually lowered the height of a mountain by 20 feet.
Yeah. Just insane to think about, right?
During an Operation Starlight, she blasted the top 20 feet off of that mountain. Which is
impressive, baby.
Impressive. Oh, We lost him. He's gone. Well, we'll have to stay here forever now. We can't just abandon his.
We can't abandon his stream.
Can't abandon his stream. But yeah, I'd love to go to that Rock the Opera. That would be awesome.
Oh yeah, I bet. Pink Floyd.
I've seen a few orchestral things in the past at like Royal Albert Hall in London and stuff, and it's quite impressive when you get a good full-on, Wagner or something. It's pretty hot.
Do you have any outdoor amphitheaters out there, or is it like mainly indoor? Or
where I am? No, there's not much where I am. I live in a small town in the interior of British Columbia, so gigs are a rarity. We don't, and there's a few local bands playing the park, kind of series of gigs every night. There's like cover bands and stuff, but there's no. There's not a lot of other stuff in this town. I did see ZZ Top and Cheap Trick earlier this year. So
okay.
You do get packages like that, but if you want any bigger bands or interesting stuff, you got to go to Vancouver. But when I move to Alberta, I'll be nearer Calgary, so there's more stuff there. Getting to gigs has been tricky, not only because of COVID, but because of just not being in the right town at the moment. But that's not long before that's over.
Right.
When I was living in Dallas for a few years before that, in Texas, it was like manna from heaven,
That is
gigs.
Yeah, that's where I live. Like, you have no shortage of shows.
Oh,
like,
you're in Dallas.
It was
I love it, man. That's my city.
It was a bit scarce during like 2020, but like shows started coming back with local shows, and then they started having some like kind of like I guess you'd say like medium circuit bands started touring again. 2021 last year, and it's just been popping off now. It shows every weekend now again, which is
great.
I
used to be down in Deep Ellum a lot at clubs watching. You could see bands like the Super Suckers for like $10, and
oh yeah,
and then I'd go to I think it's the Dos Equis now, or whatever it was before, for the packages out in the summer. You'd get like Bad Company, Joe Walsh, whatever, all that stuff. It was just a great great Granada Theatre. I used to go to a lot of stuff.
Yep.
There's always something, I love that about Dallas.
Sorry, boys. Pick my camera.
People going about Austin, but you get the same bands in Dallas for half the price and no crowds. No lineup. Austin's overrated.
And the thing with Austin too is like they'll have all the same like rooftop bars where you can see local bands, but it would be twice as much for admission or just spending on drinks, essentially. Out here in Dallas, like there are places that are cheaper. You could go to places in the suburbs too, where you get a bunch of local bands playing or cover bands, and your drinks would be like $2 to $5 for like a double shot.
I'd go up to McKinney or Denton and places like that and get a shitload of great bands and bars.
I'm actually looking at both those places as places to potentially finally move to.
McKinney's a great town. I like McKinney.
McKinney's nice,
there's a couple of really good bars there that would have bands on. There was like a Stevie Ray Vaughan cover band I used to go to, Texas Flood, that I used to follow around. They were brilliant.
Nice.
And they get like
I've heard of them. Texas Flood.
Texas Flood are great cover. Well, they do more than Stevie Ray. It's all Texas blues as well. But the guy just nails the guitar playing.
Yeah,
stuff like that. You didn't even have to pay to see it. And beer was normal price and. I love it. That's what I love about a big city.
Yeah,
Dallas particularly, I found to be really good for that.
It's a great place for shows for sure. Yeah. The music scene is still really, really alive out here.
Yeah, I mean, all these people would go to South by Southwest and stuff like that, and in Austin, all these other festivals there, and endure the crowds and. Whatever, the same bands will be playing the next week in Dallas for $10,
Yeah, where you spend like 140, 150 for a ticket for South by. It's
exactly. The Austin City Limits and whatever. It became too much of Austin became up its own arse, and then all these Californians that moved there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not saying Dallas isn't woke too, but there's a lot of it isn't as woke. Hey, do you ever go to the Truck Yard? I love that place, the Truck Yard bar.
I have not heard of that place actually.
well, where's it? Lower Greenville. The truck yard. There's a second one now. I love that place. And then the Katy Trail Ice House. That was my local bar. I could walk there pretty easily up the Katy Trail. Yeah. Anyway, and I was a Dallas Stars season ticket holder. So.
Yeah, fair enough.
Hence my bobbleheads, mate.
Yep.
Hey, I was in a store in the town I'm in today, and they had Dallas Stars fabric because they had every NHL team. I went, oh look, they've got Stars.
There you go. There you go.
That's Canada. They're into hockey. So. Anyway,
Should have got some Bruins attire.
They had that, yeah. They had every NHL team. I was impressed. I said, oh, I'm going to have to get some of that Stars fabric. My wife said, what would you do with it? I said, I don't know. I just want it. I don't know what I would do with it.
Now, were you always
a Dallas
Star? Were you always a Dallas Stars fan, or you were?
No, I got into them. I got into them when I moved there. I always liked hockey, but when I moved there, with a buddy of mine, another Canadian, that moved there for work the same time as me from the same company, we said, oh, let's start getting to some games because easy to get tickets and whatever, and we just fucking loved it.
That was actually probably right when they got set up.
First year I was there, they had they topped the Western Conference.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is that was probably right when they were getting set up in the late 90s.
Oh, I didn't get there till like I was there 7 or 8 years ago. So I moved there.
But I was gonna say, like, before that, you know where they originally came from, right?
Yeah, Minnesota.
Yeah, they were the Minnesota. They were the North Stars.
It's funny how they failed because Minnesota is a huge hockey place, and yet the North Stars failed.
And the Minnesota Wild are actually killing it.
Who? Never heard of them. Sorry, who?
Minnesota Wilds.
Wilds?
Yeah, they're actually a pretty good team.
Are they a team? No.
Well, I mean, it's Minnesota. Like they play hockey from the time they come out of the womb. So.
Well, you'd also
in the room.
You'd also expect the same out of New England.
Yeah.
And the Bruins, you know what? The Bruins put on a good show at least every year.
I miss the Plymouth Whalers.
The Hartford Whalers, you mean?
Yes. That's what I said. I thought they were in Plymouth.
No, Plymouth is in Massachusetts. Hartford's in Connecticut.
All right. I thought it was Plymouth, but never mind.
But actually, the funny part is they have, because another NHL team actually owns their iconography, there is an AHL team that has taken over the opposite of their home uniform.
Right.
They're called the Connecticut Whale now.
Connecticut Whale. Interesting.
The Whalers became the Avalanche, didn't they?
Yes. No, the Whalers became the Carolina Hurricanes.
Did they?
Yep.
Yeah. I never.
And the Nordiques became the Avalanche.
Right. Okay. Yeah, they moved to the north. Yeah. Okay.
Just don't tell Brahma Bull.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a Frenchie. Quebecois.
Hey.
Anglais, Tabernacle.
I'll put it this way: at least Quebec City is better than Montreal.
Well, I'm very familiar with Montreal because that's where my wife is from, although she's English, not French, Anglo. But Quebec City is a really nice place to visit. Like if you want to,
Quebec City's nice. Montreal, I want to fight
it's
half
the oldest bar in North America.
Really?
Still open. Yeah, 1640 or something. I don't know, some ridiculous.
That would have been the Green Dragon in Boston, except it's been burned down like.
Well,
4
indeed,
times.
And I'm saying the oldest one that's still open continuously is in Quebec City.
It's burned down like 4 times, and I don't think the current location is the original one. They do still make a good effort at it though, of being an old-timey English pub. Otherwise known as the food sucks, but the beer's good.
I tell you, you got to go to Britain, man, because some of those pubs in all over the UK, not just Scotland, are just incredible. We were in a pub in Cornwall. Been in it a few times down there, and it's they used to press gang sailors in the Napoleonic era in this pub, and it doesn't have pumps. It's still just got kegs. They just pour the beer out the keg.
Nice.
The tap in the keg, and it's the same everything is the flooring, the benches is all from the 1700s in it.
Oh
It's
wow.
fucking incredible, and it's full of history. But they used the pressed gang guys, and it's just but no pumps. Just you want a beer? It's out the keg.
And I
It's on the
know
tap.
you guys tuned in here for Iced Earth, but you're getting history, and you know what? That's kind of what Iced Earth gave us.
Yep.
And
Indeed.
But,
I will have to drop out, my friend. Anyway, it's getting near domestic time again. So
Yeah, I'm probably going to cut it off here anyway.
well,
Yep.
don't go
Because
that
I think
far.
we've-
Don't
I
need to
think we've-
transition. You're okay.
No, I think we've covered the album, but
Yeah, I just want to just put kind of a final thoughts on it. Yes, the Gettysburg trilogy itself did have full orchestration of the Prague Philharmonic Orchestra all through it. I just looked this up, and this was the last album to feature James McDonnell and Richard Christie in the rhythm section.
okay.
So it was kind of like the end of an era, because those guys had been with John since at least the Horror Show album, and I think James goes back to Something Wicked, first Something Wicked.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure it was John Schaefer's band to start. But anyway,
Well, absolutely. I'm just saying they brought in Ripper. They had Ralph Santolini doing lead on it, with some lead guitar by Tom Morris, who produced the album, and it would be the last album to feature Richard Christie on the drums and James McDonnell, I think his name is, on bass guitar. It was always, yeah, absolutely. Iced Earth is John Schaefer. It's an expression of his creativity and songwriting.
And
I just think this album is like the last album where you had the best rhythm section, drums and bass, that Iced Earth has ever had, in my opinion.
yeah, you might not be wrong on that. But Sentinel, tell everyone where to find you.
You may find me at the Sentinel, at my website on YouTube, and the Sentinel 43 on Instagram.
Did you finally get banned off Twitter?
Oh my God, I've been banned off Twitter since March. Fucking asshole. I'm still trying to appeal it, and I'm hoping Elon does something, but I haven't heard anything lately on him buying it.
Did you say something naughty like I did?
Yeah. So they kicked you off too?
Yeah. That's why I'm not on Twitter anymore. I got banned.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I got banned over the stupidest reason too. It was,
I memed too hard on the Germans, therefore I had to go, because apparently it's illegal under German law.
Oh, fuck the German.
I know. Who won the fucking war?
Germans.
Exactly.
The German, yeah, what have they got to do with us? Fuck them.
Yeah. But they do have that. I think even England has that now, where if you're bullying somebody who's located in England, they can, if they report you under their non-bullying on the internet pussy law, Twitter can kick you off permanently.
And if you exist and if you're in the UK, they can actually prosecute you for it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous now. They're picking up kids for saying things in playgrounds.
Yeah.
It's pathetic.
They have to go by some like international law bullshit thing instead of like the law of the country that they're based out of, which is America, because they operate in so many countries. But it's still bullshit if you ask me. It's all bullshit.
Anyway,
the pussification of Western men.
What are you up to, my friend?
Well, next thing I'll be doing is Toxic Tuesday on 32 Flavors of Nick Visor's channel tomorrow night. And tomorrow night it's Team America.
Yes.
I'll definitely show up for that one.
It's about time you guys did this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We are going to have so much fun. We'll just recite the whole movie, basically.
That's the best way to go.
Fat socialist wiener, you know.
I'm so wrong-y, so wrong-y, so wrong-y.
Everyone has AIDS.
Fag.
And it's the perfect it's the perfect theme song for Toxic Tuesday. Everyone has AIDS.
Have you ever seen a man eat his own head? Well, then you haven't seen everything. But that's tomorrow night and other shit. Who knows? Well, next Monday we will have my show. Okay. And as I say, I really, really want to do a movie. I want to do Outland, Sean Connery movie. So
all right.
I feel like a change. I don't want any music. Just do that.
Well, then I'll look her up.
Look it up and watch it. It's a good movie. High Noon in Space.
Nice.
Cool.
And you never know when high noon is in space, so how did they know when they were supposed to fight? Well, it tells you in the movie. Anyway, that's me. But thanks for having me on, mate.
No, thanks for coming, man. And always, I'll be on there Monday, probably, if I can find the movie.
You can find it.
And if not, I'll be on there to. If not, I'll be on there to talk shit about it anyway.
Just talk shit about it, exactly. Just read up about it on the internet and pretend you know. That's what I do.
But Herbs, what do you got going on?
Hello, everyone. I will be on Twitch a little bit later, probably like 20-25 minutes from now. I'll be playing with my buddy Mr. Insanity, just doing some regular old bullshit on Warzone, shooting people and getting shot, well, in a video game. It's Warzone. Chill, YouTube, chill. Yeah, I'll just be doing that, and then just playing video games on the internet, hanging out with everyone.
All right.
Yep, that's about it, man. That's about it.
And then there's me. Y'all know me. This is a little bit special episode. Mm-hmm. So my MU boys, you know who you are. Fucking love you boys. My Marines. Hey, Semper Fi, cunts. And everyone else. You can catch me every week, mostly except next weekend, on here. Doing an episode of Rock and Roll Religion. You can catch me on 70s channel pretty much all the time, where we're talking about other stuff that I may or may not know about, but I'm willing to shoot my mouth off. So, there we go. And I am trying to increase my presence on Twitch. So, like Herb says, I'll probably be doing something later tonight, probably like the 11-12 Eastern time thing, where I'll be playing some more BattleTech.
Hell yeah.
And other than that, thank you for showing up, ladies and gentlemen. I love you all. And as always, we'll go for the traditional outro of stay healthy, stay safe. Stop playing with fireworks. You know who you are. I love you all. And I'll catch you next time.